Welcome back to the channel. This is Tsunade Storm and you are watching first part of What If Naruto and Hinata got banished after Sasuke Retrieval arc. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Always taking no time. Let's start the story.
Tsunade Senju, the Godem Hokage of Konoha, was seated in a chair at Naruto Uzumaki's bedside. I can't believe that those bastards on the council would threaten me like this, she thought as she gazed sorrowfully at his sleeping form. Rewind. Would you please repeat that again? Tsunade asked, releasing some ki as she stood in front of the council. Danzo stated, because of the actions of one Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke Uchiha has left the village and we of the council have decided for the good of the village that you have two choices. One is to have him executed now. We all know of your feelings for the boy, so we give you the second option. Exile. If he is not out of the village in 10 days, then we will issue orders for him to be executed. You can't do that. I am the Hokage and Tsunade said. As he stood up and walked out with the rest of the council, excluding the clans, Danzo said, Yes, we know, you do not agree with our decision, which is why we will notify the Fire Lord and he will support our decision, that is all. You have 10 days to make your decision. Good day. What about you people? What do you have to say about this order? Tsunade asked, scowling as she surveyed the remaining members. Hiyashi looked at him and said, I am indebted to Uzumaki for changing Neji for the better. I do not support this decision but was outvoted. Inoichi replied, actually Hokage-sama, all of the clans were against this, but they outvoted us. We have all been either neutral or partially favorable to the boy. What do you plan to do, Hokage-sama? Sume inquired. According to Tsunade, I don't know, may I make a request, Hokage-sama? Hiyashi said as he got to his feet. Everyone gasped when Tsunade turned to face him and said, if you do banish Naruto, please send Hinata with him. Tsunade inquired. Why? Hiyashi sighed, because this will destroy what confidence she has. Everyone knows of her interest into the boy, and if she reverts any, then the Hyuga Council will force me to put the caged bird seal on her. I do not wish that for either of my daughters, so at least if she was with Naruto, then she could be happy at least until my clan council decides to try to get her back. I may appear to not care for my daughter, but the truth is I only wanted her to find strength and be happy. I ask that if she does leave with him, that none of the rest of the clans reveal what I have said as one parent to another. I will consider it. For now I just need time to think, Tsunade remarked with a frown. Finish the flashback. As she gazed at Naruto's form, Tsunade sighed and asked herself, what am I going to do? I only returned to this fucking village because of him. Furrowed-browed and furious, she clenched her fist and continued, if he's not wanted, then neither am I. I heard what happened and came back as fast as I could, Jiraiya said, glancing at her as he entered through the window. What are your plans? If he is not here, I have no reason to stay in Konoha. Tsunade remarked, I only joined because I had faith in him, you know. Jiraiya scowled and uttered, so what? Danzo will take over and have Root and Anbu after him before the end of the day if you depart. After a minute of frowning, Tsunade grinned and remarked, not if the Rokudame Hokage were to keep control, at least until I could get him to safety. In response, Jiraiya stated, no way Tsunade, I am not taking that job. According to Tsunade, agree to it and I will give you the one thing you always wanted, she snorted. Jiraiya looked at her with a scowl. That's low, Haim. You know I only want that if your heart was in it, not because of some payment. I know you care for him, Haim. As much as I do. He is my godson for Kami's sake. Tsunade continued, and what have you done for him? You've just taught him 2 jutsu, one of which is his birthright. I talked to him and I read all the reports Sensei had on his education and training. I know how you only started to train him after he had to bribe you with his unique henge. You care more for nudity than you do for him. So if it takes you having me model for you nude to do the right damn thing for him, then so be it. Fine, I will take the job and give you as much time as I can. What do you plan? Jiraiya said, closing his eyes. I have a plan, Tsunade said, her eyes softening. I need some things from you. In 2 days I plan to leave the village with him then. Have you told him yet? Inquired Jiraiya. Tsunade smiles and responds, yeah, I told him earlier after I checked on his injuries. He's hurt by it. Jiraiya. After scowling, Jiraiya said, tell me what you need so I can get it. With a gentle smile, Tsunade started to explain her needs to him. Jiraiya blinked when she finished, then he jumped out the window and said, well, that won't be too hard to get those items and I believe I can get the approval. I will see you in your office in 2 days and I won't tell anyone. After observing him leave, Tsunade thought, thank you, you old pervert. When Hinata and Hiyashi entered Tsunade's office the following day, he remarked, we have come as summoned, Tsunade-sama. Tsunade said, now that I am certain no one can listen to us, I will speak. Hinata, Hyuga, your sensei and your father have told me how you have an interest in healing. She also made sure the door was closed and used privacy jutsu. Stuttering, Hinata said, "Yes, Hokage-sama. What is your opinion of Naruto Uzumaki?" Tsunade asked, nodding. "Go ahead, Hinata, and speak the truth. I hold no judgment in this and I support you," Hiyashi said as Hinata flushed. Hinata raised her eyebrows and said, "He inspires me, Hokage-sama. No matter what happens, he always gets back up and keeps going. He is very brave." And she was interrupted by Tsunade, who said, "All right, let's move this along quickly. I'll ask you a question, and you'll shake your head, yes or no." "Do you like him?" Tsunade asked after Hinata nodded. Tsunade questioned, "As more than a friend?" after Hinata nodded. Tsunade asked, "If you had a chance to be with him, would you take it?" after Hinata nodded in response to her father's nod. "Even if you had to leave the village and your clan and family?" Tsunade asked after Hinata gave a quick nod. When Hinata looked at her father, she froze and said, "This is a decision that you will have to make on your own, Hinata. This is one decision where you will have to live with your choice, so don't worry about what anyone else thinks but yourself." Without faltering, Hinata closed her eyes and asked, "Why do you ask me this, Tsunade-sama?" Hiyashi gave her a curious look when Tsunade said, "What I am about to tell you, you cannot tell anyone or repeat. Am I understood, both of you?" Tsunade said, "I have a lot to do and not a lot of time. The Ondaime could not kill the Kyuubi as you were told. He had to instead seal it into a newborn baby, his son." Hiyashi's eyes widened as Hinata nodded with him. Tsunade went on to say, "By doing that he made it such that when his son dies the Kyuubi will die as well. They are two separate beings." But both Hiyashi and Tsunade turned to face Hinata when she said, "But Naruto-kun is seen as the Kyuubi, attacked, glared, hurt, and treated unfairly." Hiyashi inquired, "How did you know Tsunade is speaking about Naruto?" "The night he stole the forbidden scroll I snuck out and followed him," Hinata remarked with a frown. When Hiyashi scowled, Hinata remarked, "I heard what Mizuki and Iruka said that night. I finally knew why he was treated the way he is." "And what do you think of him?" Tsunade inquired after observing Hiyashi's expression. With her fingers clasped together, Hinata remarked, "I only see him as that much of a hero for it." Tsunade stated, "The Council of Konoha, in its infinite wisdom, decided that I have two options, to banish Naruto or to have him executed. The clans were against this, but they were outnumbered." Tsunade asked, "Would you like to go with him?" as Hinata glanced down at this. Hinata gave a nod and bit her lip. "Good, now Hiyashi, I am afraid that is all I can say with you here because the rest of our conversation is the details about when they will leave and what is to happen. I request that you please prepare anything you wish for her to take with her and seal it into a scroll for her and bring it to me tonight at midnight. Now if you would please leave and allow me to speak with Hinata privately." Hiyashi nods and says as he approaches the door, "No matter what you think of me or what I have done in the past or may have to do in the future, I have always loved you and I was only hard on you because I wanted you to become stronger and find happiness. If being with Naruto gives you that, then you have my blessings. For what it's worth, you know I am but one man and I will have to answer to the council and protect your sister. Please be strong and good luck, my daughter. I love you and your mother would be proud," as he left the house. After he left, Hinata sobbed on the ground, and Tsunade got up to give her a hug and reassure her, saying, "Shish, it will be okay, Hinata, I promise." After a few minutes, Tsunade got up and said, "Now we have much to discuss. You see, we leave tomorrow at 5 a.m. I have two very trusted shunins doing guard duty." Hinata had eventually calmed down. "We?" Hinata inquired. Tsunade responded, "Yes, you see, along with Naruto, both Shizune and I will be going with you. I am taking you both as apprentices. Leave your headband here when you leave today and pack your clothes and anything you might need. I read in Kurenai's report of your team that she taught you the basic of sealing, so seal everything you wish to bring so we can travel fast. If you wish to see anyone before you leave, you need to do so now. But you can't tell them why you are leaving. Inform them that I have you along with 3 others going on a special C-rank mission that you cannot tell about for security of the client." Hinata stammered, "How is Naruto-kun taking this?" Tsunade sighed and said, "You will learn tomorrow. Now please leave and do what you need to and do not seek out Naruto because you won't find him, okay?" With a nod, Hinata departed. When Tsunade, Shizune, and Naruto arrived at the gates at 5 in the morning the following day, Hinata was already waiting. "Are you ready?" Tsunade inquired as she walked out the gates with the others following. Hinata nodded and Tsunade said, "Good, let's go." Naruto said, "This is far enough." He was covered in smoke and a 5-foot-tall toad was standing where he had been, about 2 miles from Konoha. "Where is Naruto-kun and what's going on?" inquired Hinata. Tsunade responded, "Relax, Hinata, you see, Naruto is still too injured to move. Even with his healing abilities he wouldn't be able to move without re-injuring himself for another 4 days. This is a toad summon. The toads have taken Naruto to Myoboku's mountain now. If you would please grab the toad and he will take you there as well. You need to hurry, though. What about you? Hinata asked, looking perplexed. Tsunade laughed and replied, don't worry, I will be joining you soon along with Shizune in 10 days. For now take this scroll and begin to do what it tells you until Naruto has healed enough. After receiving the scroll, Hinata followed instructions and seized the toad. Both of them were soon engulfed in smoke, and they soon found themselves on a mountain with numerous enormous statues of toads. The toad yelled, please wait here, before leaping away. So you are Hinata? I am Gamakichi. I am one of Naruto's favorite summons. Please follow me, said a tiny orange toad wearing a vest a few minutes later. As the toad started to guide her away, Hinata glanced around and nodded. After Hinata left, Tsunade and Shizune returned together. They exchanged glances, and Tsunade remarked, last chance Shizune, you can turn back now or… According to Shizune, my place is with you, Tsunade-sama. As they both started to jump through the trees, Tsunade said, right, then you know the plan, let's go. Gamakichi led Hinata to a hut, and as he leapt away, he said, bro's in there asleep. Slug lady, put him in a medical coma until he heals. If you need anything just ring the bell on the front of the hut, but please do not wander around out of sight of this hut. It is not safe here for outsiders without a guide. Good luck. Hinata stared at him until he left, and when she entered the hut, she noticed a toad perched on Naruto's stomach. He gave her a quick glance and nodded before leaping away. When Hinata approached Naruto, she noticed that he had bandages covering his chest. She looked at Naruto while closing her eyes and using her bloodline. As she cancelled her bloodline and sat down, she wiped the hair from his face and thought, poor Naruto-kun, did Sasuke do this to you? She watched him sleep for about an hour before taking out the scroll Tsunade had given her, opening it and reading. Hinata, you have already been transported to Naruto's location if you are reading this. When he wakes up, please watch out that he doesn't move around too much since I'm not sure what you can use or not. I've got a few books I'd like you to read while you watch our favorite knucklehead. Have him read them as well. When he awakens, please support him and assist him when he needs it to make sure he truly understands what you both read. Test him on it by the time we meet. I want you both to have at least the basic anatomy book committed to memory. Tsunade, after examining the seal with the kanji for 1 on it, Hinata used chakra to open it, revealing a book with the title, Basic Anatomy. She sighed as she opened the book and started reading after giving Naruto a quick glance. There was a knock on the door of the Hokage office in Konoha. Later that afternoon, Tsunade was examining some books on her desk when she said, come in. When Homura and Kaharu entered her office, she glared up, turned back to the book she was reading, and said, what do you want? In a contemptuous tone. Homura replied, we came to see if you have decided what to do about Uzumaki. Tsunade stated, Naruto is still in a coma from the Chidori Sasuke shoved in his chest. I will not make a decision without talking with him about it first. Kaharu replied, we had heard he had awoken already and you had talked with him. Tsunade continued, and this from the same people who wish he was dead. Sorry to disappoint, but even with the Kyuubi inside him helping, he is not immortal and still human and requires time to recover from near death. Anyone who attempts to harm him before he is healed enough to either leave or face his execution will result in the death of not only the person who attempted it but their 3 closest blood relatives, or if they are not any relatives then their teammates. As Homura's eyes widened, Kaharu's did too, and he said, you can't do that, Tsunade. Tsunade continued, I have already made it official and sent it to the Fire Lord along with a copy of your orders, his medical file about his injuries, the mission he was on as well as the other members who were with him and their reports, as well as a few other files I found in Sensei's files I thought would be important. You want to fight? Well, this bitch has claws. Now get the hell out of my office or I will send you both to Ibiki for insubordination. After scowling, Kaharu remarked, this isn't over, Tsunade. Do not threaten me, you old bastard. I am the Hokage and you are my advisors. Do not try my patience. Tsunade cleared her desk before Himaru could respond, then slammed her against a bookshelf. She then released Homura and stepped back, saying, do not bother me until the time limit is up or I will kill you now. Tsunade was covered in smoke and slumped into a chair after both advisors hurried off. Jiraiya then showed up and said, well, that will buy you some time. Let's see what else I can do. Perfect. With haste, Jiraiya raised a hinge once more, pressed a seal beneath the desk, and uttered the words, ANBU. Get me Hitaki Kakashi and bring him yourselves. I want him here right now, Tsunade said as 4 Anbu appeared. About 10 minutes after the 4 Anbu swiftly departed, Tsunade grinned and started writing something down. Don't you think this was a little overboard, Hokage-sama? Kakashi asked. They departed after Tsunade glared at him and said, Anbu, leave us. She continued, now Kakashi, I have been reviewing some files on Team 7 along with your personal files. I do not have a lot of faith in you at the moment. From what I have read according to your own reports, all you have done is trained your team in teamwork and tree climbing while you focused on the Uchiha. Tsunade said, don't say a word or I will have you do D-rank missions for a year in one of Guy's jumpsuits. Kakashi scowled behind his mask and started to speak. Kakashi trembled as Tsunade replied, now, I read your report that there was nothing you could teach them because of their lack of chakra control, and I find that hard to believe that a man who has copied over 1000 jutsu could not find something that they could learn. So, I am giving you the next 5 days to write down every jutsu you know, hand signs, how to do it and a description of the jutsu. But, said Kakashi. Tsunade hit the desk with her fist and, that is not a request, it is an order. I want that in my hands in 5 days or I will have your Sharingan eye removed and destroyed and have you put on trial for treason because purposely sabotaging your genin team training qualifies as insubordination. Especially with this in a war. Now get started. Time is counting down. Kakashi shunshin away and said, yes Hokage-sama. When Jiraiya reappeared after Tsunade released the jutsu, he thought, well, that should help you, Haim, with his training. As she and Shizune sat on a river, the real Tsunade sighed and Shizune asked, where exactly are we going Tsunade-sama? Tsunade replied, by now Jiraiya should have sent those reports I fixed up to the Fire Lord as well as a copy of my final orders. Shizune inquired, what were they? I know you had me getting several items for you like the Forbidden Scroll, the Sarutobi clan summoning contract, money from the Konoha treasury though, why was it such a weird amount? Tsunade laughed as she said, Konoha was originally founded by the Senju and the Uchiha clans as part of the original charter. If either clan were to leave the village they would split the village in half between the two clans. What I had you take was exactly half of the Konoha treasury which is legally mine. Okay, I can understand that, Shizune scowled, adding, but what were your orders? And why the summoning contract? Tsunade continued, Asuma had a falling out between him and his father refusing to ever sign the contract. I fear that it will never find its way to Konohamaru's arms, so I am taking it until he reaches the age at which he will be capable of using it. As for my other orders, I officially took Naruto and Hinata as my apprentice and had both promoted to the rank of Chunin. I have their vests with me. I also made it so that both of them plus both of us are officially cleared of all past, present and future obligation to the village of Konoha. As Tsunade and Shizune laughed, Taunton, who was in Shizune's arms, squealed and Tsunade responded, yeah, you too Taunton. Tsunade laughed as she said, I also did something that is going to make it extremely hard for Konoha for the next few months. In 3 days' time Jiraiya, who is impersonating me at the moment, will send out an order for an official public audit of all the clans and the council financial holdings which require the clans to withdraw all their money from their accounts in the bank, and with the Senju money being removed that will pretty much bankrupt the banks and the council as well, since they won't receive their orders until the day after, by which time they won't be able to get any money, making it where they can't pay for any missions. That's evil Tsunade-sama. Shizune's eyes widened, and he smirked before adding, I like it. Sighing, Tsunade remarked, well I also took the hat. To which Shizune replied, really, why? Tsunade laughed and replied, I like the hat. We should get going now to make sure anyone who's following us will have a hard time tracking us down. For the next 3 days, Jiraiya played the role of Tsunade. They were only issuing D-rank missions. Tsunade used a seal beneath the desk in her office today and said, ANBU. Please take these orders to each of the clans of Konoha to the clan heads themselves. Tsunade handed them several scrolls as the Anbu arrived. As they hurried away, the Anbu said, hi. When Hiyashi heard someone knocking on his office door, he said, enter. When a branch member carrying an Anbu entered, he held out a scroll and said, excuse me, Hiyashi-sama, but this is from the Hokage. Hiyashi accepted it. The Anbu departed after that was finished. Hiyashi arched an eyebrow before reading what was written in the scroll. Hiyashi. Hello, I am writing to let you know that I have received information about council members stealing money from our treasury. In order to confirm the information I have been given, I have made the decision to conduct an audit of the funds belonging to each council member and their families. Since I don't think the clans are involved, I am sending this notice to each of them first. However, as Hokage, I have to be fair to everyone and look into you as well because you are a council member. It's not personal to make sure there isn't any money being laundered, as it were, from one group to another to cover their guilt. I would like you to collect all of your family's assets from any accounts you may have and hold onto them until this audit is finished. According to my directives, the council cannot compel you to return the money until all council members have been audited and the village treasury has been checked to ensure the right amount is present. I am asking everyone participating in this audit to document all of your financial transactions during the audit period using the enclosed ledger in order to give you and the other clans a day to collect your money. I will have the auditor start on Monday and notify the council tomorrow. I will make this as easy as possible for everyone concerned, and I appreciate your assistance during this time. Senju Tsunade Hokage Godem PS. Owing to Sasuke Uchiha's recent defection, the closest surviving relatives in Konoha will inherit all Uchiha clan assets, debts, and money. Specifically, the Hyuga clan, as of tomorrow enclosed below in the seal containing the ledger or the official transfer of ownership orders. Have the entire branch family gather in the main hall immediately. Hiyashi blinked repeatedly, thinking, what the hell are you up to, Tsunade? This is a very bold move. He then addressed the branch member who was waiting to be released. As he turned to go, the branch member said, yes, Hiyashi-sama. Upon opening the items, Hiyashi thought, this is going to be interesting. As they received their scrolls with similar notes, clan heads throughout the village had similar thoughts. So now that we are on our way to Mist, what are you planning? Shizune asked Tsunade while they were on a boat during this time. Tsunade laughed and replied, simple, we get a hotel and get spotted a few times by the local ninjas and then we henge and leave town on another boat to our next destination. Shizune continued, thus making anyone who follows us having a harder time to follow our trail. So how many of these little diversions are we making? Tsunade continued, we already did one in Wave and we'll have one in Mist late today, and then we will leave 2 more before we meet Naruto and Hinata, one in Snow Country and one in Tea Country before we head to our real destination. Which is? Asked Shizune. It's a surprise. Just trust me, it will be worth it, Tsunade said with a sly smile. Frowning, Shizune uttered, tell me we're not going to be gambling. Tsunade replied, nope, not right now, at least this is too important to gamble on. Shizune blinked repeatedly as she put her hands together and exclaimed, Kai. She tried repeatedly until Tsunade gave her a headshake. Sorry, it's just that you don't want to gamble is shocking, Shizune said, with a sheepish expression. Tsunade closed her eyes, squeezed Taunton, who squealed joyfully, and sighed, saying, don't rub it in. Where am I? Was Naruto's first thought when he woke up and looked around at a strange-looking hut he had never seen before. He also noticed Hinata sleeping on a bed across from him. Huh, who are you? He asked after noticing a weight on his stomach and looking down to see a toad sitting there with a stick. The toad looked at Naruto and replied, I am Fukasaku, but you can call me Pa. My wife Shinma, who you can call Ma, and I were the assistants to the Elder Toad before his passing, and we are now the Elder Toads. You can think of me as the Fire Lord and Gambunta as the Hokage, if it makes it easier to understand. Okay, so why are you here? And where are the 3 of us right now? Naruto asked, nodding. Pa replied, Myoboku's in Mountain or Toad Mountain, what do you remember? Naruto scowled and pondered. Rewind. Naruto woke up gradually and noticed a white hospital room. He asked, what happened? As he turned to see Tsunade taking her hand off his head. What do you remember? Asked Tsunade as his eyes widened. Naruto reflected and uttered, I remember Sasuke and I fighting at some valley, and he cast his gaze downward. His chest was heavily bandaged, as could be seen. There was sadness in Tsunade's voice as she said, if you were anyone else, you would have died. Luckily Kakashi found you and was able to bring you back, and I was able to save you. She had been crying, as Naruto could see by looking at her. What's wrong? You said I am okay, so why are you sad? He politely asked. Tsunade sighed as she said, the council is blaming you for Sasuke's defection. They are forcing me to either have you banished or executed. With his eyes closed, Naruto pondered, why would the council? Kyuubi, it has to be Kyuubi. Why, in the 9 hells, can't they see me and that bastard are 2 different beings altogether? As he looked at Tsunade. So when will I die? He asked, his face grim. Tsunade replied, you're not. I have some things to take care of, but you are not going to die. Just rest for now and leave things to me, okay? I will protect you, Otuto-chan. Tsunade put her hand on Naruto's head before he could speak, and he went back to sleep. Finish the flashback. I was either going to be banished or executed, and Tsunade said she would not let me die, scowled Naruto. Pa stated, Tsunade kept her word and protected you by sending you here to finish healing. Then you will meet up with her and someone named Shizune later. With a bewildered expression, Naruto questioned, huh? Pa pointed to a scroll and hopped off, grinning and saying, don't worry about it, there is a scroll there for you to read since you can't walk for another 2 days without re-injuring yourself. Wait, what about Hinata? Inquired Naruto. Pa glanced back and said, you will have to ask her yourself. If you need anything, have the girl ring the bell and someone will come. There is a bathroom behind the door to the left there, but there is no shower. Sorry, we hardly ever have humans here. He waved goodbye. After picking up the scroll from a book and reading it, Naruto scowled and thought, so Hinata is here to help keep an eye on me, huh? With a moan, Hinata turned over and opened her eyes to see Naruto sitting upright with a scroll. She sat up immediately and exclaimed, "Naruto-kun." Naruto replied, "Hey Hinata, what's up? I mean, why did Tsunade Bachan send you to keep an eye on me?" Glancing around, Hinata clasped her fingers together and stammered, "Well," she asked. "I accepted." With a bewildered expression, Naruto questioned, "But why you?" As she looked down, Hinata blushed and stammered, "Can we talk about that later? Tsunade-sama wants us to study while we are here." "I guess you're right," Naruto scowled, adding, "But I don't see why I need to read this." Hinata stammered as she said, "I am sure Tsunade-sama has her reasons, Naruto-kun." Naruto responds with a nod. "Why not? I don't have anything else I can do right now anyways. Do you want to read this?" As she showed the book that was next to her when she fell asleep reading, Hinata blushed and said, "I already did. I finished it while you were SSL sleeping. IMS starting the NA XXT book already. Why?" Examining the book beneath the scroll, Naruto blinked and inquired, "How long have we been here? Because this book is huge." According to Hinata, 3 days, 3 days, and you've been here that whole time?" asked Naruto. Hinata was only able to nod, and Naruto looked at the red-faced, book-reading Hinata and asked himself, why would Hinata agree to watch me while I was asleep for that long? With a sigh, Naruto opened the book and started reading. "Please take this official orders to the council and tell them it's non-negotiable, and failure to do so shall result in immediate 10 years of prison for treason," said Tsunade, when she summoned her Anbu again the following day in Konoha. "Why are you here, Anbu?" Homura asked as the Anbu entered the council chambers a short while later. Before departing with his squad, one handed the scroll to Hamaru and said, "Hokage-sama sent this here and said to tell you that it is non-negotiable, and failure to do so shall result in immediate 10 years of prison for treason." Homura took the scroll, opened it, and his eyes widened as he started reading. "What does the princess say?" Danzo inquired. Homura stated, "She claims to have received reports of theft of village funds by members of the council and has ordered an audit of all council members and their families." "She can't do that," exclaimed Danzo. "Actually she can, and my clan has claimed all of our assets already for the audit as per her orders," Hiyashi remarked with a sly smile, joining the other clan heads. "What are you up to, Tsunade?" Danzo asked, scowling as he noticed the other clans nodding. Hiyashi noticed the scowl and replied, "You know, the funny thing is when my clan claimed all our assets, it seemed a huge chunk was missing, so I have to agree and support this claim that someone is taking funds from the village funds." Kaharu responded, "What do you mean when you talk about your clan and the village funds? They're two separate accounts." Hiyashi laughed and replied, "Actually, when I took this letter of authorization Tsunade gave me, the bank manager informed me that Tsunade took what belonged to the Senju clan for her family audit as well, and when I claimed the Uchiha clan funds there was a huge chunk missing." "Wait, what right do you have to the Uchiha funds?" a civilian inquired. Hiyashi took out a scroll to read. "As per order of the Godem Hokage of Konoha, with the defection of the last Uchiha, all assets that belong to the Uchiha clan including money, debt, lands, and property hereby go to their closest living relatives, the Hyuga clan." Homura remarked, "She does not have the authorization to do that," as a number of people scowled at this. Hiyashi reached for a different scroll and stated, "According to the village charter, in the event of the destruction of a family no longer residing in Konoha by death, becoming a missing nin, or going missing, all their assets will transfer to the closest living relative, and since the Uchiha clan was once part of the Hyuga clan, that makes my clan the closest living relative." This caused a number of people to scowl, and Homura responded, "That still does not explain why you are messing with the village funds." A number of individuals observed Hiyashi and replied, "Thank you for asking. You see, it was pointed out to me that because of the village charter, the village funds are divided evenly between the Uchiha clan and the Senju clan due to the fact both clans were the founding clans of Konoha, and set the account up with their own funds." Danzo's eyes widened as he realized something and said, "Very clever, Tsunade." This caught everyone's attention. This is not good. If the Hyuga clan and Tsunade have all the village funds and the clan's accounts, then, he thought, frowning. Kaharu inquired, "What are you going on about, Danzo?" Danzo stated, "Tsunade has effectively shut the village down by doing this. If the village funds are now in the control of the Hyuga and Senju clans, we can't afford to pay for any missions, thus making the situation unstable. As we can't send anyone on any mission until the funds are returned, I say we should overrule her on this matter, so that we can continue to run the village. Hiyashi continued. My clan refuses to return the funds until the missing funds are found. There is over 200 million missing from the village funds, and neither the council nor the Hokage can tell a clan what to do. Hiyashi concluded, unless, of course, you wish to have a civil war in the village. Homura replied, then how are we to afford to pay for missions? Hiyashi continued, that is not my problem. The audit begins on Monday, so I would say you all should be more worried about getting your assets together, because I know for a fact that all 3 banks in the village claimed that nearly all the funds in the bank were now gone since each of the clans have collected our assets. Danzo was thinking, clever move. Tsunade first, the Fire Lord who should have received your message by now, will be here in a few days, and now, the bank's cutting off our funding. Does she know of my route program? A few civilian members gasped and hurried away while Danzo was still thinking. Hiyashi reflected, I see what you have planned now. Tsunade, you knew that when you gave me the Uchiha assets that I would have no choice but to inquire as to why the Uchiha part of the village accounts was less than it should have been, especially when you took exactly half, according to the ledger, that should have been there. Hiyashi walked out of the room after saying, I wonder how Hinata and Naruto are. When Kakashi returned to the Hokage office the following day, he discovered Jiraiya seated at Tsunade's desk. Where is Tsunade-sama? He inquired. Jiraiya responded, Kakashi, I take it that you have listed down all the jutsu you know, as Tsunade had asked. Behind his mask, Kakashi scowled and uttered, yes Jiraiya-sama, but how do you know about it? Jiraiya replied, Tsunade mentioned it when she went to check on Naruto. She said that you would drop by sometime today. With the recent events between her and the council, she asked me to watch her office while she was away to ensure no one broke in and took something. She also told me to take a look at the list and compare the chakra and control level both Sakura and Naruto displayed at the time I took over his training, to see if you were telling the truth or not. Then I suppose I should hand this in to you then? Kakashi sighed and took out 5 scrolls, each of which was labeled under a different element. Jiraiya accepted them. After nodding, he concluded, well, you may go while I review this, and don't worry unless there are several blatant deceptions that I can see you were lying. I will support you. After all, I am a reasonable man and you are my #1 fan, and I am not emotional like Tsunade can be. You are dismissed. As he walked away, Kakashi said, thank you Jiraiya-sama. Jiraiya stopped smiling and thought, well, that movie about the clown and the flying rodent man I saw in my travels was good. You are my #1 guy, and pow. Kill the bastard. Now let's see what we got. Kakashi, I am so going to make your life hell. As he slammed his hand down, an orange toad said, yo. Jiraiya looked around, bit his thumb, and swiftly went through hand signals before saying, Kachiyose no jutsu. Jiraiya replied, Gamakichi, listen a moment, I need you to see to it that Naruto gives these to Tsunade when they meet up, okay? It's important. Jiraiya sighed and sagged into the chair as Gamakichi nodded, took the scrolls, and vanished. With a smile that faded as he inserted a scroll and henge into Tsunade, pressed the seal beneath the desk, and exclaimed, Anbu, he said, now it's time for Tsunade to make her grand disappearance. Tsunade handed the Anbu a scroll and said, please take this to the council in exactly 1 hour. Dismissed. The Anbu then departed. She swiftly took out some tags Jiraiya had been working on while he was in the office and placed them on the windows and walls. As she left, she put a few on the door, pushed the henge aside, and smirked, thinking, now nobody can enter the office until I am named Hokage. Then he giggled a little and went toward the hot springs. Tsunade was traveling toward Snow Country in a boat. She was wondering, why do I feel like punching Jiraiya right now? Are you alright Tsunade-sama? Shizune inquired. Tsunade breathed a sigh of relief. Must be my nerves or something. It won't be long until we reach Snow Country, then I can send word to Princess Koyuki Kazuhana about what happened to Naruto and our little escape. Do you believe she will take it as Tazuna did? Shizune inquired. Tsunade recalled Tazuna's response. Rewind. After departing Konoha, Tsunade and Shizune made their way to Wave Country. Both women blinked when they arrived. What the hell? The brats got the bridge named after him? Tsunade asked, her eyes as big as a dinner plate. I had no idea, nobody ever told us about this, Shizune remarked. Tsunade pointed to a plaque and said, half-lidded, look. She then went over and read it. The magnificent Naruto bridge, named for the boy who restored our faith, taught us the value of true strength, and freed a nation, making him a hero. We hope that this bridge's legend will be as vivid as our heroes. Dedicated to the Konoha ninjas who accompanied Naruto Uzumaki during our darkest moment. Tsunade looked up and said, oh, We have got to hear about this. I read Kakashi's report over this mission, how Sasuke and Sakura were prime examples of teamwork and how Naruto's use of Kage Bunshin sped up the bridge building, but I never heard anything about this. I thought the people here might be sympathetic to Naruto, but this may be more than I could ever imagine. Let's see if we can find this Tsunade and hear his version. When she met Shizune and Taunton on the bridge. After receiving directions, they arrived at Tsunade's house. Approximately an hour later, Tsunade applied a knock. A short while later, a girl with black hair, roughly Naruto's age, opened the door. Her eyes widened briefly as she tried to conceal her reaction, but Tsunade and Shizune saw it and the girl said, "Yes, can I help you?" Tsunade replied, I am looking for Tsunade the bridge builder." The young lady replied, "Oh, he's out at the moment but will be back in a few hours. May I ask what you wish to see him about?" "It's about Naruto Uzumaki," Tsunade stated. With wide eyes, the girl asked, "Naruto-kun, how is he?" Saying, "So, you know Naruto-kun, huh? What's your name?" Tsunade narrowed her eyes. "Haku, who is at the door?" A voice behind the girl said. "Ah, guests. How can I help you ladies?" said a woman with black hair, who caught Tsunade's attention. Tsunade replied, "My name is Tsunade and this is Shizune. We were looking for Tsunade so we could inform him about Naruto." "Tsunade here is a world-famous medical ninja, Tsunami-san," Haku said, biting her lip. Tsunade replied, "Well, until recently I was the Godem Hokage of Konoha." Tsunami responded, "Really, so what about Naruto? My little son Inari looks up to Naruto like a big brother and Haku here is." Then Haku cut her off, saying, "Just someone whose life was changed by him." Tsunade replied, "I see. Do you mind if we come in and sit down? We have not really had a chance to rest in a few days since we left Konoha." Tsunami responded, "Oh, of course, please come in. Sorry for my manners, we don't have many visitors anymore since Dad took over as the leader of the Land of Waves." "So what is Naruto up to?" Tsunade asked as she entered the room with Shizune, who was holding Taunton, and sat down on the couch. Haku sat in a chair across from them. Tsunade looked at him and replied, "Well, the Council of Konoha, after the recent defection of Uchiha Sasuke, at which time Naruto was injured, has decided to blame Naruto for Sasuke's defection, which is a lie, and they still blame him for the Kyuubi and wanted to get rid of him, right?" Haku asked, drawing attention from Shizune and Tsunade. "How do you know about that?" Shizune inquired. As she glanced at Tsunade and Shizune, Tsunami sighed and remarked, "That is something you would have to ask Naruto about yourselves. I am afraid to say so. Now that we know why he's actually being punished, what is his punishment?" Tsunade looked at Shizune and breathed. "The council gave me an ultimatum. I either had to have him banished in 10 days or they would have him executed because of the fact I only became Hokage because of him. I have defected with my assistant Shizune here along with one other." "Where is he at?" Haku inquired. Tsunade replied, "He's somewhere safe because he's still injured from his fight with Sasuke." Haku inquired, "What could cause that kind of Chidori? You seem to have me at a disadvantage. How were you able to know what jutsu was used on him?" Tsunade said, squinting her eyes. Haku bit her lip as she reached the bottom of her shirt as she slowly raised it. Both women's eyes widened and she said as she brought it back down, "During the mission here Naruto-kun and I met and became friends even though I was the enemy. I was disguised as a hunter nin and was the tool of Zabuza-sama. We met in battle and I had defeated the Uchiha. Naruto-kun thought I had killed him and the Kyuubi's chakra leaked out. He attacked me covered with Kyuubi chakra and it had entered my body from the punches. Then he stopped when my mask broke. Then he realized who I was and recovered at that exact moment. Kakashi went to kill Zabuza-sama and I took the hit for him somehow. The Kyuubi's chakra, and my bloodline sealed the wound with ice and it started doing something to my skin that turned it into that blue scar you just saw." Tsunade scowled and gestured to the scar, asking, "May I?" After a few minutes, Tsunade said, Strange, it appears to be exactly what Kyuubi did to help heal Naruto. Are you sure the Kyuubi chakra was in you from the fight?" Haku nods and frowns. Tsunade then approaches and performs some hand signs while her hand glows. Haku replied, "Yeah. My chakra control has always been good and I could detect foreign chakra from genjutsu. It was red, and it burns. Naruto was the only one who knew I was still alive at the end of the battle because his team made him take care of mine and Zabuza-sama's body. After they left he took me to a small cave he found and stayed with me until I was nearly healed and his team had to leave. He talked to Tsunade and his family privately and asked could they watch me for him and they agreed. I have been here ever since." Looking at Haku, Shizune questioned, "What exactly were you and Naruto?" "Friends," Haku said, her eyes narrowing. Shizune replied, "All right. Fine, I was just curious because, I mean, if he told you about Kyuubi he must trust you a lot. We need to leave soon, Shizune, if we are going to throw the ninjas off the trail. Tsunade remarked with a sigh as she glanced at the clock. Just be sure that you keep that boy safe, and, if you need anything from us, you got it. The woman turned to face Tazuna, who was seated at the house's window. Who are you? Tsunade asked. Tazuna entered the room through the door. The name's Tazuna and I am the newly elected leader of Wave Country after our Wave Lord decided to quit after his failure over Gato and his cowardliness to do anything about it. I got reports of a pair of ladies looking for me and where I live, so I came to see what was up. I have been here long enough to hear about what the council did. I will tell you this now, Wave Country will break our trade alliance with Konoha for doing this to our hero. Tsunade replied, well, I am glad to hear that because I have taken Naruto as my apprentice and will be teaching him everything I can to make Konoha regret everything they ever done to him. Tazuna replied, then we are in an agreement. If you need anything for him, don't be afraid to send word. My people are eternally grateful to him. Tsunade grinned and replied, I'm glad someone sees him as a hero. I hate to say this, but we are leading several false leads as to where we are and if we are going to meet up with him when we are supposed to, we must leave. According to Tazuna, of course, take care of him for us. Please let Naruto know that Inari wants to see him, Tsunami said. As she turned and ascended the stairs, Haku said, tell Naruto-kun, it's snowing now but springs will come soon, he will know what it means. Following her departure, Tsunami said, please forgive Haku, her and Naruto have some sort of bond and he is a very touchy subject for her, even I don't know all the details. Tsunade was thinking, what haven't you told me, Naruto? And said, it's alright, he's a touchy subject for us as well. It was a pleasure to meet you all and when we can we will see you all. Come on Shizune, let's go catch a boat to Water Country. Finish the flashback. Shizune took out a scroll and wrote something after noticing Tsunade deep in thought. Tsunade read and blinked. How much longer will we allow her to follow us before taking action? Tsunade replied, you know, I don't know Shizune, I wonder about that myself. For now I say we just sit and wait until the right time to find out. Don't want to piss off a possible ally or make any new enemies. With Hinata and Naruto as he hurled the book across the hut, Naruto snarled, I can't take it any longer, my head hurts from trying to remember the bones, muscles, and pressure points. With a sigh, Hinata picked up the book, went to sit on the side of the bed Naruto was in, and said, with a slight stutter, Naruto-kun, I know this is hard to handle, but just think, it might come in handy in the future also. Tsunade-sama wouldn't have us reading this without reason. When he felt Hinata's hands over his, Naruto closed his eyes and started massaging his temples. When he opened them, she blushed and said, just close your eyes and let me show you something I learned reading the next book. As the pain began to subside, Naruto said, you know Hinata, you're not stuttering as much and you don't faint when near me anymore. Why is that? As Hinata massaged his temples with chakra. Redder than ever, Hinata said, I don't know. Hinata stopped moving her fingers and asked, what makes you think that? After Naruto said, you're lying. He placed his hand on hers and said, I could feel your heartbeat when you were rubbing my temples, and when you spoke before it was steady, but when you said you didn't know it went faster. I read that the heart beats faster when you lie from the stress. If you don't want to tell me then say so, but please don't lie to me, as he took her hands away. Oh no, Naruto-kun's getting mad at me, but if I tell him the truth then he... Hinata thought as she lowered her head and pressed her fingers together. Naruto scowled and turned away. With a sigh, Naruto reclined on the bed and turned away from Hinata, who felt like crying and uttered, I'm nervous about what you would think of me if I told you the truth. Why? Naruto asked, turning to face her. Why are you nervous about what I think? Why are you really here? I know that I am not being told everything. Why did you leave your family to be here with me? Naruto asked as Hinata bit her lip and looked down. As Naruto turned to see another small frog, Hinata opened her mouth to hear a female voice say, I swear, you're as dense as your father was. Come again? Naruto asked, blinking. I just said you were just as dense as your father was. You can't tell a girl likes you unless she walks up to you and beats it into your head, the frog said, leaping over and taking a seat on Hinata's lap. As his eyes gradually widened and Hinata's face grew redder the more he gazed at her, Naruto blinked and blinked again, thinking, a girl likes me, does she mean Hinata likes me? Is that why she always faints in? He inquired, is this true Hinata, do you like me? Naruto looked perplexed and questioned, why? As Hinata swallowed, closed her eyes, and nodded. Before she could speak, Naruto's head turned to face the frog. After something clicked in it, he looked at the frog and said, wait, what, you know who my father was? The frog replied, took you long enough. Yes, I know who your father was. He was the one who sealed the fox in you. As he closed his eyes and waited for Hinata to freak out, Naruto's mind froze as he felt his entire world crash. He thought, oh god, Hinata's going to freak hearing about the Kyuubi and hate me like everyone else, and does that mean my dad was the Undaime? After a few minutes, Naruto slowly opened his eyes to find Hinata staring at him. Why are you not freaking out? He asked. Hinata simply sat there. The frog said, damn, why did you have to be so stupid? Let me explain it to you. She already knew about the fox and she still likes you. She left her home to be with you. So wake up and tell the girl if you like her as well. As she stuck out her tongue and struck Naruto in the eyes. When Naruto saw Hinata staring down with her eyes closed, he swallowed and said, Hinata, if you like me, please look at me. He asked himself, why is she acting like she wants to cry? Does she really like me that much? Do I like her? Naruto nodded and said, all right, since you say you like me, would you give me some time to figure out what I feel for you? As Hinata slowly raised her head to look at him. Naruto looked down and said, it's not that I don't like you cause I do, it's just I don't know if it's just friends or more. I never really thought about you and me since we never really got to know each other. Hinata sighed and replied, but if you're willing to be patient with me and help me to understand what I feel, then how about we get to know each other better and take it one day at a time? That way you can see if you like me as more than a friend and I can see if I like you more than a friend, and if we both do then we can go from there. Are you okay with that? Naruto said, good, then how about you help me a little bit with his book? And then, we can talk a little bit. Hinata bit her lip, looked at him, and nodded. Both the frog and Hinata started to perspire when Naruto said, oh yeah, I forgot you were here. The frog then slapped him again with her tongue, saying, I am Ma. I came to tell you that Jiraiya has sent several scrolls for you to give to Tsunade when you meet with her, so when you leave make sure you have them now. If you will excuse me, I have dinner to cook. As she hopped away. When Naruto asked, why do women always hit me? His perspiration fell, causing Hinata to laugh and Naruto to smile slightly. When Naruto woke up the following day, he grinned and was eventually let out of bed by Hinata and the older toads who had visited earlier. As Hinata followed him outside, he started to stretch and remarked, you know, by the time we fell asleep last night your stutter was nearly gone. I never knew you were a closet prankster. Yes, I learned it from watching you put a red shirt in with all the whites of my clan's laundry and it dyed them all shades of red and pink. Hinata laughed and said softly after taking a deep breath. Father almost had a heart attack. Why? Inquired Naruto. Because he had to wear pink underwear to a council meeting. That thought made Naruto laugh, and when Hinata noticed Ma and Pa approaching them, Naruto turned to face them and inquired, what's up? As he leapt in front of Naruto, Pa remarked, you have obligations as a toad summoner that you have to fulfill. Learning the sage arts is one of them. But you're not yet prepared for it. Learning our fighting techniques is another. I'll start teaching you our taijutsu style for the remainder of your stay here, and Ma will take Hinata somewhere else because she needs to learn some things. Naruto blinked and turned to face Hinata, who appeared perplexed. What things? Hinata, you and I have a history together with another summons by birthright, Ma said. When the Falcons found out that she was present, their leader requested that she be brought before them to be tested as an ally, just as we are yours, because her mother had a contract with them. It's okay, Hinata, just be yourself and don't get scared, Naruto said with a slight frown. Someone as strong as you can definitely pull it off, even though it might sound frightening. Simply have faith in yourself. Yes, I do. Hinata's head jumped up faster than you could say, snap, and she looked at Naruto in disbelief before stammering, do you mean it? Naruto replied, yes, and don't stutter, it's cute and all, but when you talk normal it makes you look lovelier. Red in the face, Hinata exclaimed, hi. When she turned and started to leave, Ma said, this way. She continued walking in a different direction, and Hinata blushed in shame and started to follow her. When they were gone, Pa remarked, you have a way with words, kid. Looking down at the older toad, Naruto remarked, and you need to explain to me why I was never told my father was the Undaime. Like Gamakichi is yours, Gambunta was your father's summon partner. According to Pa, he asked all of his children to abide by the same rule, honoring your father's wish that you not know until you were old enough to protect yourself from his enemies. But Ma and I don't share that belief. We told you because we think you should know. As he walked away, Naruto followed him, saying, now follow me. Now, I have seen and heard of your use of Kage Bunshin, and I ask you honestly, did you know that whatever they learned goes back to the original when they are destroyed? Asked Pa after they arrived at a clearing with numerous peaks. Pa responded, well, they do, as Naruto blinked and shook his head no. This is what we will do. Then I have 3 scrolls here that are written with our taijutsu. I would like you to make 50 clones, each of whom should perform a different kata. As I correct the clones on their kata, you will use chakra to run up and down those spikes until they do it correctly. Once they do, I will destroy them and return the memory to you. I want you to return and show the kata. When they do, I'll let you go back to practicing chakra control. If you do it correctly, I'll use my cane to strike you in the head until you get it right. If you don't, we'll start sparring. After you've committed all 50 kata to memory, get to work now." When 100 clones materialized, Naruto put his hands together and exclaimed, "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu." Pa remarked, "Your control is off, but it was expected. Well, half of you practice chakra control with the original, and the other half follow instructions now. Start working so I don't beat you all." After they had all turned to face one another, Pa leapt to his feet and struck the real Naruto in the head with his cane, causing him to yell, "OWWW." Pa remarked, "You want some? Come get some," as he rubbed his face. Each clone swiftly started working alongside the original, and Pa grinned and thought, "It always works." With Ma and Hinata. "Why did you tell him I liked him?" inquired Hinata, who was pursuing Ma. "You were distracting him as well as yourself," Ma said, glancing back at her. "You both need to be focused if you and here to survive what lies ahead. Telling him now will allow you to get it out of the way sooner rather than later." After a short while, Hinata inquired, "How did the falcons know I was here?" Ma paused, looked up, and said, "Hello Talon," without saying anything. "I see you have brought her as I requested," Talon said as Hinata looked up to see a 6-foot-tall falcon staring at her. "Excellent, now get out of here before I devour you." When Ma turned and walked away, Hinata briefly appeared. Alarmed Talon turned to face her and remarked, "Lady Hinata, you have nothing to fear from me. Before your mother passed away, I was her summon partner. My name is Talon." After calming down and recalling what Naruto had said, Hinata remarked, "It is an honor to meet you. It's encouraging to see that you have largely overcome your stutter." Talon said, "The toads are useful for something, I suppose." "Why do you talk about the toads as if they were?" Hinata asked, blinking and biting her lip. "Dinner?" Talon asked. "They are, of course, that to me and my kind. But over the years, they have gained enough respect from my people that we will only eat them if they disrespect us or are our enemies in combat. The snake that consumes our eggs before our young can be born is our shared enemy." You now questioned how we were aware of your presence. "The winged lords of the sky are the falcons. We are the subjects of all other birds. They obey our commands, and we assist in defending them against our innate adversaries. They have been keeping an eye on you since birth, and they have informed me of their findings." "I see," Hinata said, thinking, "Must mean snakes and others like them. What do you want from me, then?" "I would like to offer you my family summoning," Talon said. "My family, not my people." "I do not understand," Hinata blinked. "I am not the lord of all falcon summons," Talon declared. "I am just one falcon among many. I want to personally summon you, along with my kids, so that you can call upon us, but I will be the strongest falcon you can call upon." Hinata pondered and questioned, "Why me?" "Your mother requested that you be given the honor," Talon stated. "You, not your sister or anybody else." After giving it some thought, Hinata said, "I would like that." "Not yet," Talon said. "You have to give me a test to prove yourself. You have to prove to me that you are capable of using your own hands to complete a task. I'll take you to a nearby river with lots of fish that isn't contaminated by toads. You have to catch me 50 fish, keep them all alive and fresh, and present them to me using only your bare hands, not the Hyuga clan's gentle fist or a ninja's weapons. You will gain our respect and our contract if you can support my family and me. Do you concur?" After giving it some thought, Hinata questioned, "Should I be honored to receive this contract, or does it mean I will never sign another one?" "Very wise of you to ask," Talon said, glancing at her. "No, you will receive a personal summons, but you are not allowed to sign the contract with our adversaries. Like the snake, we will lose our contract if we do this. If you would like, call me if you were ever offered another contract, and I will let you know if we accept it or not. Are you up for the challenge now?" Talon turned after Hinata nodded, saying, "Climb on my back and use chakra to hold on." Hinata climbed onto his back slowly, and Talon took off when he sensed her chakra clinging to him. Hinata was a little lightheaded when they landed in a clearing with a stream in it. "At least you didn't throw up," Talon remarked. "There's the stream now, and keep in mind that you can use your bare hands to keep 50 fish alive." With a nod, Hinata approaches the river slowly. As she looks at the water, she notices a few fish and asks herself, "How am I going to do this?" When she noticed a few vines while strolling through the clearing, she sprinted up the tree and gathered them up, repeating the process until she had roughly 20 vines, at which point she started tying them together to form a massive net. "Even if I use this net, the fish might still get out," she thought as she finished building the net. She said, "I guess I have no choice but to use my fish netting that's under my shirt." She removed her shirt, cut the netting, and tied it to the net she had made before getting back into her clothes. She went to the river after finishing, walked slowly inside, and waited until a fish approached, tried to quickly grab it, but the fish was too fast and swam away. She scowled, stood motionless, and waited for another fish to pass by for about 10 minutes this time. She moved slowly, managed to get both hands under its belly, then grabbed it and slipped it into her net that was tied to her side. She repeated this process repeatedly over the course of the following 3 hours until she climbed out of the water and exclaimed, "There are 50 of them." After giving them a quick glance, Talon remarked, "Very good. When you call upon any of us, don't forget to bring a fish as payment. Now take the scroll off my foot, put your handprint on it, and sign your name with blood." Talon said, "Good, now let's take you back to those toads and continue whatever it is that big-breasted woman has you doing." After Hinata followed instructions and was given the hand signals. When Hinata heard this, she jumped on before they took off again, and Talon took off after her. Ma arrived and said, "Come with me once more, the fool needs your assistance." Hinata saw all the whelps on Naruto's body, but mostly on his head, and yelled, "Naruto-kun," as she followed her back to the small hut they shared. "Oh, that's pretty," he said with a smile. He spun around his feet and passed out, saying, "I see an angel." As she walked away, Hinata flushed, and Ma sighed, saying, "Pa too rough on his training." At Konoha, as he stood outside the Hokage office, Danzo scowled and wondered, "What are you up to, Tsunade? You have kept the Nine-Tails child out of the hospital room in the Hokage office. Why? What are you playing at, Tsunade?" He asked himself as he glanced around and noticed a few people glance at the door before departing. It is illogical to shut down the village in this manner unless, as his eyes widened, he approached Shizune's desk, opened a drawer, and pondered, "You're attempting to conceal the boy? Or have you already forced him out of the village and given him an advantage by diverting our attention?" As he walked away after closing the empty drawer. After a short while, he was in his office when he said, "ROOT, 4 members of the Root appeared," and he instructed all Root operatives to look for Tsunade Senju and Naruto Uzumaki in the village. Although they claim he is still in the hospital room, I don't think he is. Go, the 4 said, "Hi," and walked away. Thinking, well, it seems that the boy has allies in Wave, Snow, T, and Suna. Danzo got up, opened his filing cabinet, took out a folder, and sat down to read it. "My men won't have any trouble with Wave and Suna, but they will have to take a ship to get to Snow and T country, and at this point, I can't afford to spend any money or risk jeopardizing my operations." Jiraiya was laughing at the hot springs when he suddenly tensed up and noticed a shinobi land on the hot springs roof. He looked around and thought, "That's a Root ninja. Huh? He wears clothes that I recognize. It's too rigid." Have you begun to notice Danzo? As he peered back into the hole, he recorded his observations on a notepad. Alongside Shizune and Tsunade as she stretched in the ship's VIP room after departing Spring Country, Tsunade grinned and remarked, "Well, I must admit, the kids have a way with women, huh?" "I can't believe it," Shizune said, shaking her head. "How can someone who hates his own country become the hero of 2 that he has never seen before? It is illogical." "I know," Tsunade remarked, "but that's the reality. Are you prepared for our next stop, then?" As she turned her gaze to the closet across the room. As she walked toward the restroom next to the closet, Shizune said, "Yes, but before we talk about this anymore, I need to use the restroom." She closed the door after entering, took out a paper tag, and placed it on the shower wall at the back of the closet, followed by another tag on the side. "I need another shirt," she said as she went to the dresser on the other side of the closet after flushing the toilet and removing her shirt. "My other one stinks." She opened a drawer on the dresser, put on a fresh shirt, and then, moving at Junin speed, slapped a third tag on the outside of the closet by the dresser. A cry of pain was heard inside the closet, so Tsunade got up, went over, opened it, and said, "Hello, Haku," as she glanced at the girl who was unconscious on the closet floor. Haku's body felt numb and she was strapped to a chair when she woke up. Shizune and Tsunade were seated across from her when she turned to look around. "So why have you been following us ever since we left Tazuna's house?" Tsunade inquired. When Haku remained silent, Shizune sighed and said, "Please tell us, we don't want to hurt you." Tsunade said, "Very well." While Haku remained silent, she stood up and walked over to the chair, saying, "I'll just throw you overboard and let you drown because I can only assume you're an assassin waiting to kill Naruto." "Wait," Haku said. Tsunade paused and uttered, "Yes?" After swallowing, Haku uttered, "I want to assist Naruto-kun. I want to repay him for saving my life." "So why are you skulking around and spying on us?" Tsunade asked. With a downward glance, Haku remarked, "I wanted to talk to him privately without anyone else listening." Blinking, Shizune questioned, "Why?" "Look, I have my reasons why," Haku said. "Simply let it go. Can I just follow you around until we meet him since you are aware that I am here? As long as you allow me to speak to him privately for 10 minutes when we meet, You are free to bind my chakra or do anything else you want. I just ask that, she said, glancing at the two women. Why don't you seem afraid of what we could do to you? Tsunade inquired. It takes more than what you got to scare me, Haku said. Blinking. My master Zabuza-sama made me watch 3 women give birth when I first started my period then, with just a bra and underwear, a single senbon needle in my hair, and a string of condom packets for a necklace. He led me to a bar as everyone in the bar lost their unique characteristics. Let's say I walked out a virgin and never wanted to see another man again. That is nothing in comparison to being in your presence. Tsunade said, okay, you get your 10 minutes, but betray us or hurt him, as Shizune and she both blinked. She gave Haku's face a close-up for effect before saying, I'll kill you. According to Haku, I wouldn't have it any other way. Look, how many times do I have to explain it to you all? Danzo said angrily. In the council chamber on Monday, both Tsunade and Uzumaki have left the village and are neither in the Hokage office reviewing Konoha's laws to find a means of saving the boy nor in the hospital room under guard. And what evidence do you have to support your claims, Danzo? Hiyashi inquired. We only have what you said, even though you previously stated that you had trusted people to watch for the boy's departure. Nobody in the hospital saw him leave. According to the reports we checked at the gates, are you implying that the individuals you observed lacked competence? Danzo scowled and started to speak when the door to the council chambers opened and a man, about 5 feet 5 with brown hair and eyes, wearing a brown shirt and black pants to give the impression that he was a civilian, walked in. He had glasses on. Kaharu inquired, what right do you have to enter the council chambers without our permission? I apologize, but Tsunade Senju, the Godem Hokage of Konoha, told me to report to the council chambers as soon as I arrived, making everyone freeze. I'm Sura Hishi, the Fire Lord's financial accountant. Wait, why are you here? Asked Hamaru. The shinobi in the room became tense as the man reached into his robes, took out a scroll, and said, as I previously stated, I am the Fire Lord's financial accountant. In order to ensure an objective assessment of the allegations of theft from the village treasury, the Godem Hokage asked the Fire Lord to send me to conduct an audit of all council assets, all of your financial records from the Konoha Bank, all of the financial books from the record office, and the financial registers of every Konoha business have already been seized by my armed escort. Kaharu, Homura, and Danzo were all perspiring a little at this point. Hiyashi continued. Yes, we were expecting an auditor to begin today, and I for one am glad to see the Godem Hokage has given us an unbiased auditor, since the Hyuga clan has already discovered when we were given the Uchiha accounts, being the closet's relatives in Konoha, that a large amount of assets were missing. According to Sura, I was already aware of the legal law pertaining to the Uchiha and the Senju assets, as well as the Hyuga clan taking possession of the account after Sasuke Uchiha defected from the village. He did not defect. He was forced to leave by the Kyuubi brat, a civilian council member stated. Sura replied, that is your decision how you wish to claim, as I have no authority over anything but this audit to deal with in my investigation. However, as of the moment I was given my orders from the Fire Lord, the legal standpoint is that Uchiha Sasuke defected from the village, joining the Sound Village, and has been added to the bingo book as such as an A-rank missing nin to be killed on sight due to the fact he has used an assassination jutsu on, at the time, a loyal Leaf Shinobi, as well as joining a known enemy of the Leaf and the Sand Village. This is outrageous, Kaharu declared. Whoever had the audacity to label Sasuke Uchiha an A-rank missing nin would be immediately killed. Several people flinched as Sura said, that would be the Godem Kazekage, while pushing his glasses up. Danzo replied, I was not aware Suna had already elected a new Kazekage. According to what I understand, there are a lot of things that you are unaware of, Sura stated. I will now start my audit and make it as easy as possible, because I know this council is as busy as I am to ascertain whether funds are truly missing and, if so, which parties are involved. I will begin by addressing the individuals who have the greatest access to the funds in question, which, as far as I can tell, are the advisors, Kaharu, and Hamaru. After that, I will go with Danzo, followed by the clans, and finally, the council's civilian members. Hiyashi was asking, how long will it take for this investigation to be finished? Sura replied, I shall be finished by the time the Fire Lord arrives next week. Danzo replied, how will you be able to do the entire council in that short of a period? Easy, said Sura. I am only the lead investigator in this case. My 200 aides will help me and report back to me on what they found so that I can give the Fire Lord the findings, who will then forward them to the Hokage. Now, if it's okay with you, could Kaharu and Hamaru show me their financial records and each of their land holdings so I can start? After scowling, Kaharu and Hamaru got up and said, this meeting is adjourned for now. They then departed with Sura. Holding Hinata's hand as the two toads they were standing atop carried them away from their previous location, Naruto blinked as the smoke dissipated. Both Naruto and Hinata leapt from the toad's head, and Naruto looked at the two toads and said, "Thanks for bringing us here, but are you sure this is where we are supposed to meet Tsunade Bakken?" "Yes," one croaked, "this is the agreed upon location." "All right, I suppose you two can go back then, and thank you for everything," Naruto said, nodding. After both toads vanished into smoke, Naruto turned to face the scene and questioned, "Now what?" Putting her fingers together, Hinata remarked, "I think we should look around but not stray too far away to see if we can find them or find a good place to set up camp." After giving Hinata a quick glance, Naruto said, "All right, it seems like a smart idea, let go." He leapt into the trees, and Hinata started to follow him gradually. After an hour or so, Naruto and Hinata were camping by a river when a twig broke. Naruto turned, blinked repeatedly, and asked, "Haku?" as he saw the girl. "Hello, Naruto-kun," said Haku with a smile, "how are you?" Naruto asked, "What are you doing here, Haku?" after taking a quick look around. Naruto turned to see Tsunade and Shizune emerge from the woods a few paces behind Haku. After hearing the words, "She came here to see Uzumaki." After a quick glance at Haku and Naruto, Hinata got to her feet and said, "It's good to see you again, Tsunade-sama." With an eyebrow raise, Tsunade said, "What, no stutter?" After blushing, Hinata remarked, "I haven't had a chance to get better." With a moment's frown, Haku said, "Yeah, she got better after I learned she cared for me." Shizune responded, "Okay Haku, you can talk to him like we agreed in private." This caused everyone to look at Shizune first, then at Haku, who nodded and walked over, saying, "Can you follow me a moment, Naruto-kun?" As she made her way to the woods behind the camp that Naruto and Hinata had initially begun to build, she said, "I would like to speak with you privately." After they had left, Tsunade placed a hand on Hinata's shoulder and muttered, "Is everything all right?" as Naruto looked around and started to follow her while Hinata looked down. "He knows how I feel and we agreed to go slow and see if he also has feelings besides friendship for me," Hinata said with a slight smile. Tsunade nods, and Hinata pulls out multiple scrolls, saying, "This was sent to you through the toads from Jiraiya-sama, Tsunade-sama." After opening them and examining each one, Tsunade's eyes widened and she thought, "You old pervert. This will be very beneficial." After a few seconds, she drew back, staring at him, and Naruto swiftly grabbed her, kissing her on the lips as well. After slamming her against a tree in the woods, Haku stopped, and before Naruto knew it, he was pressed up against a tree with Haku kissing him deeply on the lips. He took a step back after breaking the kiss and remarked, "I missed you, Haku." "I missed you too, Naruto-kun," Haku said with a smile while holding his hand. "How are you?" as a tail developed from her tailbone and a pair of fox ears emerged atop her head. When Naruto saw this, a pair of fox ears appeared on his head and a tail formed out of his tailbone. He then asked, "So how did you get here?" Haku stated, "Tsunade-sama came by and told Tazuna all about what happened to you and about her leaving, so after she left I began to follow her, but my stealth skills are not as good as yours and she was able to detect me." "I am glad you are here," Naruto said with a smile. "With everything that has transpired, I need you now." Haku inquired, "What is with that girl?" Leaning against the tree, Naruto sighed and uttered, She likes me and apparently has for a long time, but I ignored her feelings believing that no one cared for me." When Haku noticed Naruto's dejected expression, she raised her hand and stroked his facial whiskers, making him purr a little. "Do you care for her?" she asked. Naruto remarked, "Yes, in a sense it's not the same as you and me because of our shared history, we were able to understand one another, and Hinata is somewhat similar to us as well." Haku put a finger to his lip and said, "Most of her family members consider her weak and have treated her badly, not as badly as we have seen, but I understand," she said. "You're perplexed by everything you and I share, the only love you are aware of." Sighing, Naruto drops to his knees, sits on his butt, presses his knees to his chest, and nods, "Yeah. Growing up, I thought of Gigi as a grandfather figure, but I was hurt when I found out that he had misled me about Kyuubi. I began to question everything he had done for me as a child, including whether he genuinely cared for me or if he was only trying to keep me faithful to him and the village so I wouldn't let Kyuubi go. I also began to wonder about everyone else who had ever shown me kindness, and until I met you, I had forgotten what it was like to genuinely care for everyone, including myself." "And do you think the others that are here are like that?" Haku asked, sitting next to him and placing her arm over his shoulder. After a few minutes of silence, Naruto said, "No, I have faith in them." "That's good, Brad, since we care for you as well, but I think you have something you need to tell us." Tsunade's voice emerged from the clearing. Pointing to each of their ears and tails, Naruto looked up to see Tsunade staring at him questioningly. Shizune with a hint of womanly cuddly emotion, and Hinata in disbelief. With a sigh, Naruto closed his eyes and asked himself, why me? Naruto looked at Haku, who gave him a small nod, and he replied, all right. He gestured to his ears and tail, saying, I suppose I can tell you everything about what's going on with these. According to Tsunade, that would be good. All but Naruto blinked when Haku said, it's a binding contract with Kyuubi. Shizune inquired, what do you mean? You already know how I took a Chidori to the chest. Haku remarked just prior to that. Naruto temporarily weakened his seal out of rage because he believed I had killed Sasuke during our battle, and Kyuubi chakra fixed the harm I had caused to him. Tsunade replied, I take it Naruto didn't know who you were at the time since I remember reading that you were a masked enemy in Kakashi report. After Haku nods, Naruto blushes a little and says, anyways, when I broke her mask before she took the Chidori we talked and she confessed she wished we could have met somewhere else, then we did so we could have been together more than we had. To put it simply, I am no longer a virgin. Haku stated we both wanted to be held by someone who could relate to us, so when we first met, we were able to identify each other's suffering, console one another, and discuss our past. Naruto looked up and said, anyways, after she took the Chidori she had passed out from the pain and Kakashi put her body on the ground and I ran to it ignoring the mission and everything else in. When a whirlpool of flames formed between Naruto and Haku, Tsunade, Hinata, and Shizune flinched back. A girl of Haku's age, with red hair, red eyes, a foxtail, and fox ears, appeared when the flames subsided and said, you two take too damn long to talk, kits. I will be succinct in order to address all inquiries. Let's cut through all of that and get right to the point because you already know who I am. I was able to have a brief mental conversation with him because he used my chakra to battle the girl here. I made a deal because I know that damn seal would typically kill me when the kid here died, and I don't intend to go out that way. Tsunade inquired, what kind of deal, Kyuubi? Calm down, Senju. I'm not going to attack you or anyone else here, Kyuubi said. Hell, if Madara hadn't made me attack Konoha, I wouldn't have planned to do so. But that's irrelevant. It was an easy deal. I would get a blood clone body similar to the one I currently have with precisely one tail of power, which I could use with the kid's consent until his death. In exchange for saving the girl's life I am given that clone body and one chakra tail when he passes away, and I am free to live my life as long as I don't harm any of his beloved people. Why exactly do they have foxtails and ears? Inquired Shizune. Kyuubi remarked, oh, those I gave both that bloodline. As you can see from the lightning strike they both suffered. It permits regeneration, which fixes damage at an unstoppable rate. It also prevents them from dying of old age because the harm done to the human body that causes aging is immediately fixed. They won't appear any older once they reach the age of 22, in my opinion. They can still be killed, but it will be much more difficult. Chakra boost makes their chakra stronger than it was before, but it doesn't actually increase the amount of chakra they have. Consider the use of Kage Bunshin in the kit's 400 Kage Bunshin can now be made with the same quantity of chakra that was needed to make 100. His chakra will grow more powerful as his control increases, so eventually the same amount of chakra that would make 100 could make 1000 or more. They also have a network of chakras built into their bodies, parabolic ears that allow them to hear whispers up to a mile away with training, though I know the kid rarely uses them, and a nearly prehensile tail with scent markers that allow them to find each other or anyone they want as long as they don't take a bath or go a few days without touching the person. With her fingers pressed together, Hinata questioned, are you both still together? Kyuubi said, they must be, as Naruto opened his mouth. They're partners in the same way. The kid here can get more mates if he wants to, but he must have the approval of his other mates, so if you want to be with him, you must have both of their approval. In order to be fair to the kid and prevent him from being hurt by losing you over time, I will give you the same bloodline that I gave them both. Haku cannot be with anyone else or she will experience unbearable guilt, which will cause her to die from depression where her spirit will simply give up living, causing her body to simply shut down. What do you get out of them living longer, Kyuubi? Inquired Tsunade. Smart Senju. Kyuubi grinned to respond to your inquiry. Right now, I'm probably no stronger than a high chunin to low junin, so if you all cooperated, you could easily kill this body before forcing me back into the seal. I gain multiple benefits from the kit's extended lifespan. The first is the business. In addition to continuing to live a long life, I have lived a long life. I will have people to talk to and form friendships with as long as Kid and his family reside here. The second is that Kyuubi no Kitsune, both great and terrible, will be forgotten by the world. When I eventually have complete freedom to start a new life under a different name and not have to worry about power-hungry people attempting to manipulate or take advantage of me, I will be able to Protection is the last thing I receive since I am already under the kid's control. Madara is unable to control me at this time. Madara could come for me and try to use me as a weapon once more, just like he did when he sent me to destroy Konoha and against your grandfather, if I were released now while he was still alive. Madara Uchiha. Huh? Tsunade asked, her eyes narrowing. Then, how precisely is he still alive? Beats me human, Kyuubi said with a shrug. I'm aware that it has something to do with the eyes he took from his brother, but I'm not sure. After giving it some thought, Tsunade posed the question, what would happen to Haku if Naruto died? According to Kyuubi, she would survive long enough to care for her kids, if she had any, and then she would die of depression once they were able to care for themselves. When kitsune mate, they do so for life because they dislike being alone. Is this why you didn't want to agree to be with me when I asked? Hinata asked. Biting her lip, she glanced at Haku and said, because you needed to talk to her? Partially, said Naruto. It was also true what I told you. Sincerely, I had never given you that kind of thought before, so I wanted to learn more about you, which is what I've been doing. You need to come to terms with the fact that you are angry with Haku. She is important to me. I am aware that your family life wasn't good. Haku was almost as awful. In order to survive, her mother concealed her ancestry in the land of mist. Haku had to kill both her own father and a mob he had assembled in order to save her own life after her father killed her mother after learning of it. Then, like me, she had to live on the streets, despised and hated. Because Haku has experienced the hurt of having people you trust betray you and the hurt that comes from people hating you because you're different. She knows me better than anyone else. I acknowledge that I feel something for you, Hinata, but I'm not sure if it's love or friendship. If you despise Haku, I can tell you right away neither she nor I could survive without one another. I would still feel the same even if Kyuubi hadn't created that bond between us. What other effects would your bloodline have on a person? Tsunade inquired, similar to Hinata in this instance. If you mean that it will affect her bloodline, then no, Kyuubi said. I can do this with enough time, though, she said, snapping her finger as Naruto clutched his stomach in agony and it began to sleet in the air. After a few seconds of everyone tensing up and Naruto calming down, it stopped sleeting, and Haku uttered the words, you gave him my bloodline. Yeah, Kyuubi said, because I had to alter your DNA structure in order to heal you and give you my bloodline. I made a copy of your original structure in case I made a mistake and needed to correct it. I also looked at your DNA while I was bored inside the kit and discovered the section that gave you the ability to control ice. With training, the kit can now perform the same actions as you. Hinata said, and you could do that with my bloodline. Give it to him, as Tsunade blinked. Not just him, both of them. Kyuubi remarked. I'll do everything in my power to make him the strongest member of his pack, but I won't make any one member of the kit stronger than the others. According to Tsunade, so he could be your alpha. Kyuubi stopped herself and said, Exa. With a sly smile, Tsunade said, I see. Blinking, Naruto said, you see what Bakken? Oh, I just realized that the fox here is actually helping you for a different reason than what she has been saying, Tsunade said. Recall her statement that she wouldn't have to be by herself. Tsunade remarked, and remember she said that Haku and you couldn't be without the other, as Naruto nodded. Haku's eyes met Kyuubi's as Naruto nods once more, and Shizune responds, you don't mean. What are you all talking about? Inquired Naruto. Think about it, Naruto, Tsunade said. The rules that affect you also affect her because she gave you this bloodline. Like Haku, she would die of depression if she cheated on her partner. Additionally, she cannot survive without her partner unless she has children, which I doubt, so she is childless. She is trying to get you to like her because she is lonely and wants you to be her partner. Kyuubi, am I correct? Because people who follow animal instincts prefer to have a strong male to protect them. She gives you the Haku bloodline in order to make you stronger than she is. Kyuubi has already stated that she is using you to defend herself. Haku remarked, it's true, isn't it, as Naruto turned to face Kyuubi, who was glaring at Tsunade. Looking away from Tsunade, Kyuubi walked over and brushed Haku's hair away from her neck before saying, remember this, what did I tell you it was? A mate mark, Haku said. Naruto looked up and said, but you told me that it was how you had to save her life and that I had to test it on you. You tricked me. Kyuubi replied, I'm a trickster at heart, kid, it's what I do. But why didn't you tell me the truth? Inquired Naruto. I wanted to gain your love and approval. Kyuubi sighed. It's okay to gain your reputation by deceit, but it's better to have your heart, particularly after all the suffering I inflicted upon you. Rubbing his temples, Naruto uttered, I see. I need to think about it. Q responds with a nod and asks, you said that your bloodline makes it where they won't age. What if Naruto wanted an older woman? Will it reverse her aging and can you activate dormant bloodlines? Q responded, yeah, It would reverse your aging back to that of 22 and I might be able to activate your bloodline, but I would take time and might take some trial and errors which would be painful, but as long as I had the original DNA structure it won't be too hard. With a blink, Naruto said, "You also Bakken?" "No, Naruto, not me." Tsunade remarked, "Not the way you're thinking. Anyway, I will always think of you as a little brother or grandson, but I was wondering if I could give you my bloodline to make you stronger. Additionally, as you age, you might come across an older woman you like and want to know how all of this affects her." "Well, I guess you're right," Naruto said. "I didn't consider it that way." Kyuubi continued, "Not that I don't like the idea of giving the kid your bloodline, but to do so I would have to have a sample of your blood inside the kid's body, and to get it he would have to mark you." "Kyuubi," said Tsunade with a sly smile, "I am a medic nin who has investigated bloodline theft on multiple occasions, and I can assure you that both getting my blood inside of him and avoiding that mark won't be an issue." Kyuubi said, "Anyway, I'm tired and want to go back and rest, so is that all you need from me right now?" According to Tsunade, "I have no more questions." Tsunade remarked, "Well, that was all fun and good, but we got other things to worry about for now." As Kyuubi glanced around before vanishing in a whirlpool of flames, "Let's start training since Naruto and Hinata have already set up our camp." "All of us," she said, glancing around and noticing Shizune wince. "So what will you be training us to do?" asked Naruto after he and Hinata got back to camp. "I need to get your chakra control first, Naruto," Tsunade stated. "Your biggest weakness has been and always will be that we need to work on your chakra reserves and stamina." Hinata, "As for Haku, I'm not sure." Haku replied, "I am mostly the same as Hinata here, needing my reserves and stamina increased." With a smile, Tsunade said, "All right, water walking on your Hansa will be your first workout. It's similar to ordinary water walking, except you use your hands rather than your feet. You sink if you have too much, and you blow off if you have too little, shime, if you will." After flipping backwards and landing on her hands in the water, Shizune sighed and started to walk across the river and back a few times before flipping upright. The whole clearing was engulfed in shadow clones as they all ran toward the river and began attempting it in various ways. Naruto said, "All right," and put his hands together, saying, "Tajukage Bunshin no Jutsu." Tsunade asked, "What are you doing, Naruto?" as each of the women gaped a little. Turning, Naruto remarked, "I discovered during my training with the toads that anything a Kage Bunshin learns would return to its original form if it were dispelled." As he glared at Tsunade, he said, "Apparently that's how my father completed his paperwork as Hokage." After blinking, Tsunade remarked, "So you know about your father now, huh? On the way back, when you discovered who you were, Jiraiya told me that your father wanted you to wait until you were a Junin to learn the truth in order to protect you from his enemies." Naruto nods, and Tsunade responds, "Despite my dislike, I consented because Akatsuki is pursuing you." "Whatever," Naruto said in a lifeless voice that made every woman in the room shiver because of how depressing it was as he started the exercise. When Tsunade said, "Well, what are you waiting for?" after shaking off the emotion, Hinata and Haku went to try the exercise as well. "Now while they work on that, you and I are going to go over the scrolls Jiraiya gave us and prepare for our trip tomorrow." Tsunade turned to Shizune after they had started, thinking, "I am sorry for not telling you, Naruto, but I thought it was for your own good. Damn, why didn't I ever think about using Kage Bunshin?" When Naruto emerged from the water, he thought, "At least this way I will get stronger, and when I get strong enough I can begin that sage training I was promised, though I wish people would quit keeping secrets from me because I hate it. And who was my mother? What should I do about Haku, Hinata, and Kyuubi?" Hinata, who was a little away from the real Naruto, was glaring at Haku at last. As she stood on her hands attempting to adjust, Haku said, "If you want to talk about it then do so. Don't stare at me with such hatred. Why did he agree to be with you when not only were you the enemy but also a stranger when I have known him years and he's never even thought of me?" Hinata said, biting her lip as she stood on her hands attempting to take her first step. "It's because I saw him as him," Haku said, glancing at Hinata, "not what he was perceived to be by others, but who he really is. Who is he to you, please?" Hinata replied, He's strong, kind, he never gives up no matter how often he gets knocked down. And that is why he chose me instead of you," Haku said, interrupting her. "He doesn't seem like him to you. He is everything you aspire to be. He is emotionally weak, despite having a strong will. You might think that he never gives up, and when it matters, he does, but when he is by himself and no one else is around, he wants to give up in order to put an end to the agony of loneliness. He is kind, but he is also vindictive. I see him for who he really is, not for what I believe or what I wish him to be. He is with me for that reason. He is not looking for someone to help him or someone to help him. He is looking for someone who will support him through both good and bad times. You know, if we fight over him, he will be the one who is hurting over it, which will hurt us both." Haku said as she flipped herself onto her feet after Hinata lost her focus and fell into the water. Open your eyes and recognize both his strengths and shortcomings if you genuinely care about him and want to be with him, since I've heard that he is yours. Support him when he feels alone and be his rock when he needs it, since he really needs all the love he can get. I'll allow you to be with him. If you do that, I suppose your life was as bad as mine was. But at least we had some happy moments before the bad. He never experienced the love of a parent or the joys of friendship, but we did. Water dripping down her face, Hinata looked at Haku, bit her lip, and then reached out and took the outstretched hand as Haku pulled her to her feet. However, as soon as she stood up, she stepped directly into Haku's face, still holding that hand, and said, "If you hurt him, I will kill you." She held up her glowing hand, ready to juke Haku. After making one-hand seals and forming senbon needles in her other hand, Haku said, "And the same to you." They resumed their work on the chakra control exercise after letting go of one another. The Naruto clones who were close enough to hear them thought it was scary. When Naruto was running low on clones and the girls were almost completely depleted of chakra a few hours later, Tsunade said, "All right, that covers chakra control for today. After completing 20 laps around this clearing, I want each of you to start punching and kicking a tree 100 times with each arm and leg." Ignoring the groans of the two girls whose hearts he held, Naruto said, "All right, Bakken," and started running the laps. By the time the girls were done, it was getting dark, and Naruto had already gathered fish for everyone to eat. Naruto said, "I've been wondering, as they were eating, why are we here, and where are we exactly?" When Tsunade noticed that Shizune was the only one staring at her, she remarked, "We are currently in the land once known as Whirlpool Country. It is now a part of Lightning Country." Both Naruto and Hinata froze at this point, and as she looked around in fear, Hinata stammered, "Lightning, but why here?" "We are going to meet the Lightning Lord tomorrow," Tsunade said, biting her lip for a moment. With a neutral tone, Naruto questioned, "Why, everyone, including Shizune," gasped when Tsunade said, because his name is Ichigo Uzumaki, brother to Kushina Uzumaki, your mother." Stuttering, Naruto said, "I have an uncle. I only found out after we left Konoha though," Tsunade remarked. Shizune replied, "So that was what was in the scroll you refused to let me read, wasn't it?" Tsunade took a breath and replied, "Yes, apparently the third Hokage had discovered who he was after the Cloud Indecent, but because of that he could not do anything without taking the chance of war between the two countries." Naruto inquired, "So did he know about me?" Tsunade replied, "He should now. I sent a message to him while we were traveling the past few days." Hinata responded, But what about me? You know about Cloud wanting my bloodline." Tsunade replied, "Relax, I have already prepared for everything, just wait until tomorrow and don't worry, okay?" "Now how am I supposed to sleep?" Naruto said, slumping forward from the medical jutsu Shizune had just applied to him, while Hinata fidgeted but nodded. As she prepared to fight, Haku asked, "Why did you do that?" as he slumped to the ground. Tsunade laughed and replied, "Relax, the Gaki was already asking how was he going to sleep, and I know him enough to know he will worry himself all night until he's too tired to stay awake. Now he will get a good night's sleep before he meets his uncle." "But what if his uncle doesn't want him?" inquired Hinata. The other three women were perplexed but obeyed Tsunade's instructions when she said, "That's not exactly the problem. I am more worried he wants him too much. Now get you some sleep. Shizune and I will take watch tonight. I will take first watch, Shizune will take second watch, so get some sleep." As they made their way to their destination the following day, Naruto was bouncing up and down. They came upon a massive castle at around noon, and Naruto remarked, "So my uncle lives here," as he peered at it. "Yes," Tsunade replied, gazing at the castle and thinking, "I hope I made the right decision." 10 samurai approached them as they were within a mile of the gate, and one of them, wearing red armor, commanded, "Halt, state your name and reason for coming here." According to Tsunade, "I am Tsunade Senju, former Godem Hokage of Konoha, and these are my apprentices Hinata, Shizune, Haku, and Naruto. I sent a message to Lord Uzumaki requesting an audience concerning the fate of his sister's child." "I see, yes, we have been expecting you, but your letter only indicated 3 apprentices," the person in red armor said. Before Tsunade could respond, Naruto said, "That's because she did not know at the time about my fiancé. Copyright Haku, I am Naruto Uzumaki." Haku blushed and thought, "Fiancé copyright, well, I guess that's alright considering as far as Kyuubi is concerned I am his wife, though he should have talked it over with me, but I accepted long ago anyways." Sadly, Hinata thought, "Fiancé copyright." Looking at Naruto, the red-armored samurai remarked, "You don't resemble the lord or his sister at all." Some of the samurai recoiled when Naruto remarked, "To be honest, I had no idea what my mother looked like. I modeled all of my appearance after my father, Minato Namikaze, the Yondaime Hokage of Konoha. After staring at Naruto for a few minutes, the red-armored samurai asked, "Which one do you hold, boy?" Tsunade and Shizune were startled, and Naruto responded, "Which what?" The individual replied, "Don't play games, boy. I met the Yondaime, and while I do admit you do look exactly like him, I also know if you were telling the truth then neither of your parents had whiskers, so that means you had to get them from somewhere, and since we have two of our own in this country I am more than aware of what that means, so I ask you again, which do you have, Jinchuriki?" Causing Naruto to gasp. Naruto exclaimed, "Kyuubi." The man replied, "Very well, Tsunade Senju. You and your apprentices here will wait while I take the boy here to meet his lordship. I give you my word of honor, as long as the boy is who he claims to be, then no harm shall befall you or him. The rest of you stay here and guard these women, and you will follow me." As he gazed at Naruto. A few flinched as Naruto looked at Tsunade, who nodded and closed her eyes. He started to move forward, but halted when he said, "If anything happens to any of my precious people I will let Kyuubi free to kill you." "Naruto, you can release Kyuubi, but she's only in a human body," Tsunade thought with a sly smile. While guiding Naruto toward the castle, the man in red armor chuckled and remarked, "Perhaps you are an Uzumaki after all. Come." The guard asked Naruto, who was a little restless as they approached the castle, "Why are you fidgeting?" "I never knew who my parents were until I got banished from Konoha. I didn't even know I had any living relatives until yesterday, and I've been an orphan my entire life, so I have no idea how I should act or if he will even accept me as family. Who are you anyways?" Naruto said, placing his hands behind his head and gazing up at the sky to help him relax. The individual replied, "I am Captain Renji, captain of his lordship personal guard." Naruto said, What's my uncle like?" while nodding. As Renji opened a massive set of doors and Naruto peered inside, he said, "You will have to see for yourself, we are here." "Looks a little like Yukie's throne room. I wonder how she is doing," Naruto thought as he peered inside and noticed what appeared to be a giant throne room. He then looked around again and noticed that several people were leaving the room, and Renji was starting to walk down the red carpet. Following along, Naruto soon noticed the outline of a person seated on a throne with an empty seat next to him, but the lighting prevented Naruto from seeing any of the person's features. Renji replied, "Your lordship, allow me to introduce to you the boy who claims to be Naruto Uzumaki, son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune." Naruto replied, "What do you mean claim to be? I am Naruto Uzumaki, and I do have Kyuubi inside of me." Naruto was startled when a strong male voice said, "Silence." Naruto crossed his arms, scowled, and glanced up at the person seated in the seat. "What proof do you have to claim to be the son of Kushina Uzumaki?" asked the voice Naruto recognized as coming from the seat. "Of course they want some kind of proof. I just walk in without hardly any warning and claim to be the son of some woman I never heard of until yesterday. Maybe telling the truth will work." Naruto bit his lip and said, "Look, I don't know who she was or anything. I've been an orphan my entire life. I was told repeatedly that my parents either abandoned me or were missing or dead, and I was hated by my home village until about 9 months ago. I never knew why the hell I was hated until one of my academy instructors deceived me into doing something, and then he tried to kill me, but not before telling me about Kyuubi. My teammate recently left the village and shoved a Chidori through my chest, and the council told Tsunade Bakan that she would either banish me or have me executed. She then spoke to Ero Sanin, who had the toads take me to their home to finish healing, and they told me that my father was the Yondaime Hokage. They didn't tell me who my mother was, and I didn't know until yesterday, when the toads took me to Tsunade Bakan, and she informed me that we were coming here to meet Ichigo Uzumaki, the brother of Kushina Uzumaki, my mother. I had never heard of her or this Ichigo guy before, so I don't know if it's true or not, and honestly, with all the other crap that's going on in my life right now, I don't have time to even worry about it." By this point, Naruto had started to pace back and forth, totally absorbed in his own thoughts, never even noticing Renji or the man on the throne. Kyuubi replied, "Only you could get yourself into these situations, first the girls and now this. How do you do it, kid?" Naruto was shaking his head. "Damn it, Kyuubi, what a mess. I can't prove shit because I don't know if it's true or not. Bakan got all my hopes up yesterday saying I had an uncle and I may or may not. I don't know, and I got some ego-tripping dipshit here who reminds me of Yuki's uncle before I kicked his ass, acting all high and mighty, who probably got some big stupid plan to keep me from even meeting this guy Ichigo, so that way he could probably take over the country in some kind of ultra fucked up emo plan where he finally goes in for the kill only to forget he left all his weapons on the table in his office and gets his ass killed. Can't I even get a break, while looking back at the throne?" Blinking, Naruto questioned. What? Renji replied. You do know you said all that out loud, right? Damn it, Kyuubi. Why did you have to distract me, and why didn't you tell me I was talking out loud? Naruto said, palming his face. As Kyuubi uttered the words, it was fun to watch and listen to. Naruto's face contorted. Naruto shook his head and said, damn vixen, give her an inch and she runs your life. As he looked up at the throne and said, alright, it's obvious I don't know shit about this Kushina lady. I don't know if she was my mother or not, and I don't know what happened to her after I was born. All I know is what I've been told. I figure you're probably some asshole just like the Fire Lord has, who has to meet everyone before they can see the actual Fire Lord to see if they are important enough. Gigi took me to see him enough times when I was younger to know that much about this political crap, so how about you tell me what you want? All I have in the world is what's on me and the woman who are with me. I don't have any picture, or relics. I don't have any special jutsu besides Kachiyose no Jutsu, Rasengan, Kagebunshin no Jutsu, Sexy no Jutsu, Harem Jutsu, Henge, and replacement. I know a few chakra exercise and I just learned the Sage Tiajutsu. If any of those will work as proof then fine, but if not then I guess we're both shit out of luck. I could use some of Kyuubi chakra if that will prove anything, but I doubt it. Are you going to say anything? Because if you're not, then can I see this Ichigo guy the first one to find out if this Kushina lady really was my mother, and if so then ask if he knows what happened to her. If not then let me go back to Bakken and the others and we can get the hell out of here, Naruto said after a good minute of silence had descended on the room. At last, Renji grasped the hilt of his sword and asked, do you wish for me to kill him, sir? After tensely glancing at Renji, Naruto finally burst out laughing and uttered, no, don't kill him. I think I rather kiss him. As he began searching the room for an escape route, Naruto went pale and exclaimed, oh god, another gay pedophile. Why me? Please tell me you don't have 50-foot-long snakes ready to eat me like the last guy, because I know from experience that I can blow them up from the inside with Kagebunshin. When Naruto first saw the man on the throne, he was about 5 feet 10, with red hair that had gray in it and green eyes. He said, if you are who you claim to be, then you may have your father's looks, but you definitely have your mother's attitude. Only she would have the balls to tell a feudal lord he's a stuck-up asshole and not give a fuck. He had to catch his breath before he could stand up slowly. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Ichigo Uzumaki, he said while he was putting his clothes straight. Naruto rubbed the back of his head and blinked repeatedly before saying, oops. Ichigo nodded as he looked at Renji, but Naruto missed it. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw Renji blur, and he felt a blade cross against the side of his neck, creating a thin line of blood, but it stopped abruptly. Instinctively, Naruto leapt back, grabbed his neck, swiftly drew a kunai, and exclaimed, what the hell? After giving the blade a quick glance, Renji handed it back to Ichigo and said, here's your sword back, sir. Ichigo took a moment to consider it before looking up at Naruto and saying, you were telling the truth, you really are Kushina's son. With a blink, Naruto said, huh? Renji nods and exits the room as Ichigo says, leave us. Once he was gone, Ichigo held the sword in his hand and said, this sword has been in our family for over 400 years. One of our ancestors was a powerful warrior, however he was accident prone and kept cutting himself with his own blade, so his wife put seals on it that made it where the blade could never cut his body once it hit his blood, only giving him small paper cuts to make him learn not to cut himself. Ever since then, this blade has passed down from generation to generation, always being given to a family member to learn to use a sword without killing themselves. It's one of the only relics of our family left to survive the fall of Whirlpool Country. It is impossible for this blade to kill an Uzumaki. I had Renji wait until you were distracted and try to cut off your head with the blade so you couldn't protect yourself with some sort of jutsu. If you had not been an Uzumaki, then you would have been dead. You have to understand, I needed some way to prove you were who you claim to be. Since I am a feudal lord, I am glad that you're alive, nephew. Ichigo looked at Naruto with a slight grin. So, how about you and I spend the rest of the day talking, and I will have my guards take your lady friends to a guest room to rest for the day. I want to hear all about your life, both good and bad, and I would like to tell you about our family. According to Naruto, I would like that, Ichigo uttered. Good, guards. Suddenly, a number of samurai entered. They replied, please escort the ladies outside into the guest wing and see to it they have plenty to eat and drink as well as anything else they need. Tell them that my nephew and I will see them tomorrow sometime. Please have the kitchen prepare us a meal. Tell me, do you like ramen? After blinking and grinning broadly, Naruto declared, it's the food of the gods. Ichigo replied, tell the kitchen to fix the ramen feast for us. With a collective groan, the guards departed and Ichigo said, so, tell me about your life. After swallowing, Naruto uttered, well, as a number of guards approached them outside, Tsunade became agitated. One of them said, Please escort the ladies inside to the guest quarters his lordship said him and his nephew will speak to them tomorrow. As they were led inside, Tsunade grinned and thought, so things worked out, good. The next morning, as the sun was just coming up and the birds were starting to sing, Tsunade groaned and tried to cover her head to drown out the sound when she heard a knock on the door of the guest room she had been assigned for the night. She gave up after a few minutes and started getting dressed. His lordship would like to speak with you privately, Lady Tsunade, Renji said as she stood there after Tsunade, dressed in her regular clothes, finally answered the door after 10 minutes or so of the first knock and all the subsequent random knocks. As she put on her shoes, Tsunade nodded and said, "Let me grab my shoes." Renji then led her down the hallway, saying, "Follow me." "Ah, you must be Tsunade Bakan, please come eat breakfast with me as I have much I would like to discuss with you." "That's all. Renji, please make sure we are not disturbed." When they stopped, a huge glass door was open, revealing a balcony on the other side. Tsunade noticed Ichigo eating breakfast on the table he was sitting by. Renji bowed and walked away, saying, "Yes, your lordship." When she heard the name he called her, Tsunade thought, "Must not kill." She grinned, went out onto the balcony, and took a seat. Ichigo responded, "Allow me to introduce myself before we start off on the wrong foot. My nephew and I am Ichigo Uzumaki, the feudal lord for the land of lightning." Tsunade replied, "It's nice to meet you. I see you picked up the brat's colorful nickname, huh? At least he didn't call you an ego-obsessed gay pedophile who has fucked up emo plans of power," Ichigo remarked with a laugh. Tsunade said, "Sounds about right, so what is it you wish to talk to me about?" as she bit her lip and started laughing. Softly sighed and replied, "What are your long-term plans for him?" He told me about his life in Konoha, as he tightened his grip and kept going. He also told me about his run-in with this Akatsuki, Orochimaru, his banishment, his fiancé copyright Haku as well as his mate Kyuubi, and he showed me his unique bloodline as well as the end result of it, so I think I know pretty much everything he was willing to share, and he told me the only thing he wants to do now is get strong enough to protect his precious people and that he will follow you, so I ask you, what are your long-term plans for him? Tsunade drank a glass of water and said, "I plan to teach him and the others everything I can. In the short amount of time I have known him, he has wormed his way into my heart in a way no one else ever has. I see in him both my little brother as well as my deceased fiancé copyright, so it makes me feel like he is the son I never had. I only became Hokage for him, which is why when they got rid of him I left with him. I don't really have a long-term plan besides making them all strong enough to do anything they want." "I see. Do you know what happened to his mother, Kushina?" Ichigo said after taking a sip of his coffee. Tsunade continued, "According to Jiraiya, his godfather, she passed away from complications during labor. At least that is what Sensei told him when he finally returned to Konoha after the attack. That is what Jiraiya told me when he informed me as to who Naruto really was after I accepted the job of Hokage." After glancing across the courtyard, Ichigo remarked, "It's peaceful here, isn't it?" With a glance across the yard, Tsunade said, "Yes, it is." After a pause, Ichigo said ruefully, "Do you really see him as your son? I mean, he told me that you were the closest thing to a mother or grandmother he ever had." After giving Ichigo a quick glance, Tsunade said, "Yes, why?" Ichigo continued, "After I received your letter I sent a spy to Konoha to see if your story had merit and discovered you were telling the truth as well as learning about the political situation there. It is only a matter of time before they take your title of Hokage away and elect a new one. You do realize that, right?" Tsunade replied, "Yes, I also appointed Jiraiya as the Rokudame Hokage to help keep Konoha busy while I got them to someplace safe to figure things out and begin to act. One didn't realize it at the time how much political influence the kid had though." Ichigo replied, "Yes, I was surprised as well. Spring, Wave, Tea, and I hear Suna has also cut ties with Konoha over it." Tsunade replied, "Yeah, 3 minor and 1 major country backing him. Not bad for a genin of 9 months. He told me that his dream had been to be Hokage." Ichigo wondered, "Do you think that someday he would make a good Kage?" "Yes, I do. I gave him my grandfather's necklace as a sign of my faith in him. I was planning to name him my successor when I retired from being Hokage," Tsunade said, giving Ichigo a serious look. "Good," Ichigo said, glancing at her critical Tsunade. "Then it makes what I am about to say even more real. I have a proposal for you, Tsunade, one that, if you agree, will shake the entire foundation of the elemental nations." Tsunade gave Ichigo her full attention and said, "I am listening." Tsunade's eyes widened as she attempted to understand Ichigo's statement, "I wish to adopt Naruto as my son and have you become my wife and his mother officially." Biting her lip, Tsunade questioned, "Why?" Ichigo smiled a small smile and said, Don't worry about us caring for each other, as the actual marriage is just the legal way to do what I actually want to do. You see, I only became the feudal lord here because the previous one had one daughter who I had met in Whirlpool before it was destroyed after she ran away from here, and we got married before I learned who she really was. Her father passed away and this country nearly was destroyed because 3 different parties tried to choose the next feudal lord. One was the Hidden Cloud Village, the other was the Hidden Whirlpool Village, and the last was the Hidden Rain Village. Rain decided to destroy some of the competition and they attacked Whirlpool and my wife, and I escaped. She then told me the truth and took the title of feudal lord as his heir to stop the war that was started between Whirlpool and Rain. She used her power to have Lightning aid Whirlpool to force Rain back, but then Rain got Iwa, and soon it turned into the Second Great Shinobi War, with most of the fighting being in Rain and Whirlpool, which ultimately finished Whirlpool off and turned Rain into a wasteland. You saw firsthand what happened to that country. After a pause, Tsunade said, "Yeah, I did." Ichigo nods and said, "Anyways, I am not able to have kids due to an injury, and my wife died by an assassin during the war, so as her husband I was the new feudal lord. I do not wish to see history to repeat itself again, so what I would like to happen is for Naruto to take my place after I pass away. However, as he is now, he does not have the backing or the strength to go by unchallenged, so this is where my proposal involves you. As my wife, that would give you political backing to go to different nations, helping to gain him the political backing, training, strength, and whatever else that he will need. You said it yourself that he already has some, and I believe he can have more. He is his mother's child after all, and anything he puts himself behind will get done. That will also provide protection for the Hyuga that is with him, that I have no doubt will also be one of his wives. This Akatsuki worries me, so with my power backing your group, hopefully we can stop them before they can get him." Tsunade was thinking. I can see where he is coming from, and odds are another great shinobi war will start if he dies without an heir. He's also the only link Naruto has to his heritage. I know if I turn this down it would hurt him in the end, and it's only in title, so I don't have to worry about anything physical. But what about Shizune? She's been with me for all these years and even left the new life she wanted to start in Konoha to come with me. If Naruto is my son, she is definitely my daughter, she continued. I need to talk this over with Naruto and Shizune. I would do it for him, but you have to understand, she has been with me for the past 15 years. If he's my son, then she is my daughter. I can't force this onto her or him without talking to both. I hope you can wait for the answer. Ichigo nodded and continued, I am not going anywhere, so go ahead and think it over and discuss it with who you need to. Tsunade nods, stands up, and says, thank you. She then turns and heads for her room. Ichigo remarked after she left, you know Renji, it's not nice to eavesdrop. My apologies, sir, but I have to ensure your protection, my honor demands it, Renji said as he emerged from a side room. Ichigo replied, relax my old friend, as I told her I am not going anywhere for a while. I have many more miles to go before I rest my head. Renji inquired, do you think it is wise to accept him for my heir? Ichigo nodded and continued, as I told Tsunade, he is his mother's son, he can't stand still for long, he has to be on the move or he will go crazy. Tsunade also won't accept my deal, her heart belongs to another already, even if she does not want to admit it. Besides, Naruto doesn't need a mother or father anymore, he needs something else, and those who are with him now are that love of a companion. Renji responded, then if you know she will decline the offer, then why make the offer in the first place? Ichigo laughed as he said, politics Renji, politics as we speak. Word is already spreading about me backing of Naruto, as the other leaders have started to do. Some will speculate because of what you overheard, others will think it's because of my sister, and then others will think I am trying to lure him into a trap to get his bloodline or to join the Cloud Village. Renji questioned, then which is it? Then a bird flew over the south wall and Ichigo replied, and there goes the spy the Raikage has in our ranks, sending a message to him with what he overheard earlier. Now the Cloud Village will try to recruit him and his group as well as his allies, which will then spark the interest of other villages, which will then make people focus on Konoha, trying to figure out what they were thinking, getting rid of him, thus weakening that village's support, creating a power vacuum with Konoha becoming a minor village, and thus a new village will rise to power, and that village will have Naruto at its core, either as its leader or with his backing, earning him the respect and the life he should have always had, the life of a respected man who does not have to walk with his head held in shame, but with his head held high and his shoulders straight, the man his mother and father would have wanted him to grow up to be. Renji replied, I see you truly are a dangerous man, my lord. Ichigo replied, only to those who are my enemies and those of my family before they leave. Renji, I ask you to teach him the basics of swordsmanship, as I wish to give him my blade when he leaves. It's his by right now, since I have already learned all it can teach me. According to Renji, I will, my lord. Thank you for your support throughout my life, my friend. Ichigo said, when I die, I hope your family will rule this country just as I have. Ichigo noticed that Renji's eyes widened for a moment and remarked, That's right, I'll be replaced by you. I have faith in you when the time comes. All I ask is that you watch what's left of my family, just as you have watched me. According to Renji, it will be an honor, sir. After surveying the yard, Ichigo declared, the honor's mine. After entering her room, Tsunade sat down on her bed and asked herself, what am I going to do? After Dan, I would never marry anyone again or allow them to get that close to me, so I can't marry him. My recollection of him would be damaged. If I did this, I won't be with him because I can't bear losing someone else, and I will lose him if we get too close. But what should I do about Naruto? I acknowledge that what he has to offer is good, but should I give up Shizune and myself for him? I never asked her what she thought. She sighed and said, she just came with me without question. An hour or so later, she was startled out of her reverie by a knock on her door, and Tsunade responded, yes? Who is it? The voice of Shizune said, it's me, Tsunade-sama. Come on in, said Tsunade with a smile. It is now unlocked. Oh, you're already up, Shizune said as he entered. Since it has been a few days since we were in a bed rather than on the ground, I assumed you might have slept in a little. She smiled and said, I came to see if you needed anything. Close the door and come sit, Tsunade said with a sigh. I need your opinion. My advice, Shizune thought. Blinking, she never seeks my counsel. As she shut the door and took a seat at the foot of the bed, she said, I wonder what's wrong. After biting her lip, Tsunade remarked, this morning, I had coffee with Naruto uncle. Oh, Shizune said. Yes, Tsunade said he wanted to run a proposal by me that involved Naruto and all of us. To which Shizune replied, really, what was it? Tsunade remarked, you don't remember it because you weren't born yet, but we all thought Rain's senseless attack on Whirlpool was the catalyst for the start of the Second Great Shinobi War in these lands. That wasn't quite accurate, as I discovered this morning. In reality, it began with a three-way political battle between Whirlpool, Cloud, and Rain over who would succeed the feudal lord after the last one passed away and his daughter vanished. According to Shizune, and they fought because Naruto uncle got it. As she started to explain everything she had been told, Tsunade said, no. As this was going on, Ichigo said, ah, Naruto, I am glad you could join me so soon. Naruto was being led to the same balcony that Tsunade had been at earlier, where he saw his uncle. So what's up? Naruto said with a smile as he glanced at the departing samurai. The silent man in armor wrote, you wanted to see me. Ichigo chuckled and remarked, oh, that's Howler. Before an enemy hit him in the voice box and he lost the ability to speak. He used to be really loud now, for the reason I called you here. I spoke with Tsunade about a proposal I had. And she is currently considering it. Tsunade will formally become your mother and I will become your father if she agrees. Ichigo looked at Naruto as he scowled and then said, no. Ichigo questioned, no what, you are my uncle. Naruto sighed, that's offered, and I'm grateful for it, but I now know who my parents were and that they didn't simply hate or abandon me as some have claimed. I would feel ashamed to be their son if I accepted that offer, and I want to honor their memories. I am happy, and I respect your wishes, and you will always have a place here, nephew, Ichigo said with a smile. I want you to have the Uzumaki blade because I don't really have any other relatives besides you. Renji has offered to teach you how to use it. If you're interested, I can also demonstrate some of the jutsu I remember from my ninja days. Since I can sense that you are constantly releasing chakras, I assume that your control is poor as a result. I can teach you the Whirlpool chakra exercises. Do you want that? According to Naruto, hell yeah, Ichigo chuckled and said, well then come on, let's get started. He stood up and led Naruto to the courtyard, where he was bouncing up and down. You're just like your mother, Ichigo remarked, so enthusiastic and full of life. Naruto questioned, so what do we do first? Ichigo inquired, what chakra control exercises do you know first? Water walking, tree climbing, and I just started learning to water walk on my hands, said Naruto with a scowl. After a brief scowl, Ichigo remarked, I see, so I suppose we can begin with the fundamentals. Whirlpool's initial method of chakra control was water walking, and we progressed from there. He went to a small pond, walked out to the center of it, and closed his eyes, saying, since you already know it, I will show you the next exercise. After observing for a while, Naruto questioned, what are you going to show me? Have patience, Naruto, Ichigo said. Keep an eye on the water and let me know what happens. As he approached and peered into the water, Naruto initially saw nothing, but then he noticed movement and exclaimed, hey, this pond has a current. Close, Ichigo said with a laugh. In reality, I'm creating a tiny whirlpool by circling the water around myself. You must concentrate on staying above the water while simultaneously using your chakra to create motion in the water below you. You understand? With a wrinkled nose, Naruto remarked, it's kind of like the Rasengan. Show me that jutsu, Ichigo said with a frown. Although I've heard of it, I've never seen it in person. The clone started to help shape the chakra, and Ichigo watched as the Rasengan formed. Naruto nods, clasps his hands together, and says, Kagebunshin no Jutsu. A Kagebunshin then materializes, and Naruto extends his hand. Afterward he replied, so you send your chakra into multiple directions and add the power to it while controlling it, correct? With wide eyes, Naruto questioned, how? Your father must have made the Rasengan after meeting your mother. Ichigo remarked, the next step of the exercise I'm teaching you is to move your chakra in different directions, but it would take a lot of patience and time to master it in such a small area as you just did. How much time did it take you to figure it out? He learned the first step in 12 days, the second step in 10 days, and the last step in a week, Tsunade had revealed. Why? Impressive, Ichigo remarked. It is a sign of a hidden prodigy to learn such a well-known and lethal jutsu so quickly. As I mentioned earlier, Naruto's first task is to cause the water's surface to swirl in a whirlpool in one direction or another while I speak with Tsunade. Feel free to give it a try. Just forget about the deal, Ichigo said as he stood next to Tsunade. After Naruto nods and leaves for the water, Naruto stated he didn't want us to be his parents. When I told him about it, he claimed that he now knows who his parents were and that he wants to honor them because they did not reject or despise him. He claimed that he would feel ashamed of his parents if we adopted him. I was actually coming to tell you that I refused the offer also, Tsunade said. Exhaling, Naruto needs friends and companions more than a mother right now, in my opinion. But you already knew that, didn't you? Ichigo questioned. Who, me? I don't know what you mean. When Tsunade squinted, Ichigo grinned and replied, yeah, I knew you would refuse before I ever asked. Tsunade looked around and said, then why did you ask? What were you hoping to achieve? Calm down, Ichigo said. I achieved the outcomes I had hoped for. Somewhere among my men is a spy for the Raikage. I'm not sure who it is, but I do know that they use message birds to spread the word. I'm positive the spy heard my offer for you because the bird was spotted leaving the castle after our conversation. In a controlled, hostile tone, Tsunade questioned, so you were using me? Ichigo replied, no, I was using the spy to ensure the protection of the Hyuga who cares for my nephew as well as to cause Konoha some trouble. With a blink, Tsunade said, explain. Easy, Cloud Country already has 2 Jinchurikis, Ichigo stated. One is the Raikage's younger brother. As we talked about this morning, the Raikage will initially be interested in the Hyuga when he receives the message, but his entire focus will shift to Naruto as soon as he spots a free Jinchuriki. He will either come here himself or send a special envoy to try to convince your small group to come to Cloud and join the village. Once he learns that the legendary Tsunade is also with him and is ready to go wherever Naruto goes and is accepted. I am aware that Cloud has spies from other villages as well, so as soon as he begins preparing to arrive, messages will be sent to those villages, drawing their attention to Naruto as well. Particularly when it seems that he has 4 nations that would join any village he joins right away. The other villages will then send spies to Konoha and those nations in an attempt to find something that will draw Naruto to their village. This will reveal the truth about how Naruto was treated, and each of the other feudal lords will then begin to try to draw Naruto to them as well, since gaining your support would give them a lot of power and bragging rights. More people will pursue Naruto after they learn that he is the son of the Yondaime and my nephew in an attempt to win the second Yellow Flash before he gains notoriety in my favor. This will also lead them to try to distance themselves from Konoha in an effort to entice Naruto, thus creating a power vacuum that will have Naruto at its center to fill it. Tsunade remarked after giving it some thought. You are aware that this might lead to another major shinobi conflict. Perhaps, Ichigo remarked, it might also be an opportunity to bring all the countries back together under a single lord. Anyone with significant wealth or political connections became a feudal lord of whatever they owned, dividing up the elemental countries until everyone suffered under the last emperor, the Six-Realm Sage. Are you crazy? Tsunade asked, gaping. It's insane to try to make Naruto the emperor. According to Ichigo, he has the best chance of succeeding, and if he does, there won't be another major shinobi conflict. In fact, if he so chooses, the era of the hidden villages may come to an end. He had the power to alter or end the war. A sudden memory brought Tsunade to her knees. Rewind. After taking a sip of her sake, Tsunade inquired, Jiraiya-kun, what did you say again? I thought I heard you say something naive and twisted. Before I was permitted to sign the Toad contract, Jiraiya said, I was just telling Sensei here about the prophecy the Toad Sage gave me. But he also said, I will take a student who has prophesied to change the world forever, either by saving it or destroying it, and I will travel the world and see it like no one has ever seen it before, and I will write a book that will make me famous, a perverted book. Finish the flashback. Could he be the prophesied child, and if he is, will he save or destroy the world? She asked herself as she glanced at Naruto, who was focused. Are you okay, Tsunade? Ichigo exclaimed. Yes, Tsunade said. I just momentarily lost my balance. This must be the elevation, she said, getting back to her feet. Well, relax, Ichigo said with a smile. I hope it's okay if I help my nephew get stronger because later today Renji will begin training Naruto to wield the Uzumaki family sword. Tsunade replied, no, it's okay. As she gave Naruto one final look before leaving, she said, it will give me a chance to get the girl's chakra reserves higher. Naruto saw Tsunade stumble and then get back up as they were leaving, and he wondered, what was that about? Tsunade asked, so are you both ready to begin training? As Shizune and Haku and Hinata left the castle on their way back. What about Naruto-kun? Inquired Hinata near the end of the courtyard. Tsunade glanced over her shoulder and remarked, I'm going to work on boosting your physical strength and chakra reserves. While he is currently training with his uncle, I want you both to run laps along the castle's walls while using chakra. After 10 laps, we'll start our physical training. Haku inquired, how long are we going to be here, Tsunade-sama? I don't know yet, Tsunade scowled, adding, but keep your things packed so in case we need to leave quickly we can. Shizune inquired, is everything taken care of? Tsunade replied, yeah, Naruto already made the decision I was going to make, so everything is alright. As the teenage girls started running along the walls, Shizune thought, so Naruto did not want parents, I wonder why. You too, Shizune, Tsunade said. Glancing at Shizune, we can't allow you to lag behind the others, can we? As she climbed up on the walls and chased after the girls before passing them, Shizune exclaimed, hi Tsunade-sama. After lunch a few hours later, Ichigo was carrying his sword when Naruto walked out into the courtyard. Once more Ichigo took it off and gave it to Naruto, saying, here, this belongs to you now. When Naruto attempted to place the sheathed sword on his side like Ichigo remarked, you're still not tall enough for that style of kenjutsu. Naruto was staring at the black sheath with the black strap attached. He placed it over Naruto's shoulder, extending across his right shoulder and across his left hip, saying, here, let me assist you. There, Ichigo said. How does that feel? Strange, said Naruto. It weighs more than I anticipated. That's because you're not used to it, Ichigo said with a laugh. You won't even notice it soon if you keep it on you at all times, unless you're changing or taking a bath. Here's Renji. I want you to pay attention to him now, Naruto, and follow his instructions to the letter. You will learn all you need to know about wielding a sword from Renji. As Naruto put it, yes uncle, all right, I'll see you later, Ichigo said. Don't be so easy on him, Renji. With a smile, Renji said, hello, Naruto, what knowledge do you have about swords now? Naruto stated, they're heavy and you can stab people with them, and they can be thrown to cut off people's heads and to stand on them. Renji asked, where the hell did you hear all that? After blinking repeatedly. My team had met Zabuza Momochi and that is what he did, and he was a member of the Seven Swordsmen, Naruto said, rubbing his head. Additionally, he was a rude brute who didn't give a damn about his life or his sword. Renji said a sword is a manifestation of who you are. If you don't have it with you, you'll come to see it as a missing piece of yourself. The sword won't let you down if you treat it with respect. If you treat the sword disrespectfully, you will die. Huh, said Naruto. All right, I see how it's going to be, Renji said with a sigh. Pull out your sword. It took 3 pulls for Naruto to get it out of its sheath after he was unable to grasp it with his right hand and had to reach for it with his left. I could have killed you 20 times before you even pulled out your blade, Renji scowled. You can do that on your own later, but you'll need to learn how to draw it more quickly. I'll be teaching you defense and reflexes when I train you now. Since a sword is a weapon of defense rather than attack, I will not teach you how to attack only when you are certain that you can kill your opponent. Do you attack? Do you get it? According to Naruto, I think so. Just keep in mind this basic rule, Renji said. Regardless of what your uncle says, I will harm you and never train you again if you ever try to attack me. Repeat that rule now. Naruto was saying, never attack you or you will hurt me and never train me again. Pulling his sword away from his side, Renji yelled, good, now defend yourself and remember the rule. Naruto attempted to defend, but his sword was knocked to the ground. After slapping Naruto's ass with his sword, Renji commanded, get your sword and do it again. When Naruto grabbed it, Renji launched another attack, causing Naruto to fall on his ass for the second time. Don't wait for my orders, Renji said. Stand up and get yourself ready once more. Renji said, again. Naruto stood up, blocked the initial blow, and lost his swung sword. Repeat this every time you lose your sword, Renji said as Naruto scowled and retrieved his sword. My life is my sword. To lose it would be to lose my life. To treat it disrespectfully would be to treat myself disrespectfully. I am a part of my sword. My sword is a defensive, not an offensive, weapon. I only launch an attack when I am certain I can eliminate my adversary. After blocking the first blow and losing the sword on the second, Naruto repeated Renji's words, saying, "My sword is." For the next 4 hours, it went on this way, and by the time Naruto managed to withstand 10 blows before losing his sword, Renji grinned and said, "All right, now I'll stop being so easy on you and begin to get stronger and faster. All 10 of the major attack strikes have now been shown to you. We now need to work on your instincts and muscle memory. Additionally, since you are too slow at that, you will need to increase your footwork. You will run 20 laps around the castle walls with chakra and 20 laps around the courtyard without chakra when the evening is over, and you will be timed. You are to attempt to omit 1 minute from your total time each day. Let's go," he said, attacking Naruto once more. "You will not have mastered this exercise until you have created at least 10 rotations," Ichigo said after Naruto spent the following week practicing chakra control with his uncle. In the morning he had only managed to make a whirlpool go one way and then multiple ways. Tsunade had the girls read medical books before showing them the chakra scalpels. The girls ran laps around the castle walls every day, adding 5 laps each day until they reached 25 laps, and they were now beginning to reduce the time it took to run those 25 laps. As Hinata perused a medical book, she questioned, "Is Naruto going to learn this also?" Tsunade-sama. Later, Tsunade said he is currently learning the 3 things he needs to know the most: defense, speed, and chakra control. You all need to raise your chakra levels because you have almost perfect control over them. He probably has more chakra than I do, but his poor chakra control makes medical jutsu difficult. Actually, I don't think he will ever be able to perform anything more than light healing. If that, Naruto would be a better swordsman than any of us because, based on our battles, his taijutsu is so flawed." With a laugh, Shizune remarked, "That means he had no taijutsu to speak of." Now, Hinata said, "He does. In an attempt to protect Naruto, he acquired the Toad taijutsu." Tsunade continued, "And Jiraiya is the only one who could help him with it since I never learned it and none of you would know it, so if I were to help him with his taijutsu I could actually hurt it. So when will we be learning more medical jutsu?" Haku asked, nodding. "You all did a great job learning the chakra scalpels in just 1 week," Tsunade said. "Next week, we'll start learning jutsu, but for now, let's keep building up your reserves. It would also be a good idea to practice your hand signs when you have some free time. Try to complete each one in less than 2 seconds. This will help you in the future." While Naruto was training and the girls were training, things were happening all over the world that would alter the course of history. After reading the report he had been given earlier, the Raikage gazed out the window for a few minutes before exclaiming, "Bolt." The Raikage swiftly wrote something on a piece of paper and said, "Have these people meet me here in 2 hours. He then handed the paper to one of the 4 men who appeared at Bolt, the Cloud Village's equivalent of Anbu. All 4 of them glanced at it, nodded, and then departed in smoke puffs. 2 hours later, the Raikage office door opened, and 5 individuals emerged, including Ni Yugito, Jinchuriki of the Nibi, a woman with brownish blonde hair, black eyes with slitted pupils, and a black one-piece bodysuit and chunin vest. The man beside her was Kira B, Jinchuriki of the Hachibi, also known as Killer B, who had a white turban over his head, sunglasses over his eyes, and several swords on him with brown pants. He was heavily sunburned and had a tattoo of iron on his shoulder and horns on his right cheek. Samui, Omoi, and Karuya, the 3 chunin students of Killer B, were right behind him. After glancing at the 5, the Raikage remarked, "I'm happy you all arrived so promptly. My spy in the feudal lord's castle has sent me a report that has caught my attention. Hinata Hyuga, the heiress to the Hyuga clan, appears to be in his castle right now." This causes all 5 of their eyes to widen a little. "But that is not the most interesting thing," the Raikage remarked. "Actually, I'm not calling you here for her. I'm more interested in her friends. How many of you are aware of what happened when Suna and Otto attacked Konoha 3 months ago?" Yugito replied, "It is common knowledge that the Kazekage was killed and impersonated by Oro." With a laugh, the Raikage said, "I apologize for that error. I was referring to the actual conflict with the Ichibi outside Konoha's gates." Yugito looked at him and said, "The official story is that Sasuke Uchiha defeated the Jinchuriki of the Ichibi, Sabaku no Gara. Yes, Konoha does paint an impressive picture of the traitorous Uchiha, but there are several things I find wrong with that story," the Raikage said, laughing. "First, they claim that Sasuke Uchiha never signed the Toad contract. Gambunta, the Toad boss, was fighting Shukaku, and Jiraiya of the Sannin was dealing with summoned snakes across the village at the time." Omoi replied, "So that means that there is another Toad summoner?" "Yes," the Raikage said with a sly smile. "Konoha has made a valiant effort to conceal this fact, even going so far as to claim that the fight between Gambunta and the Ichibi was merely a genjutsu to divert attention from defending the village. Nevertheless, they are unable to deny that Jiraiya was captured with a genin when he went in search of Tsunade to become Konoha's Godem Hokage after Hyuga sealed all of his chakra points during their match in the Chunin exams prior to the invasion. A genin used red chakra to open them. So Kyuubi got himself a Jinchuriki. Killer Bee stated it appears that all of the Biju will eventually perish, so Hachibi just wants to sigh it will be what is meant to be. He crossed his arms and said, "So, what do you want from me?" "Brother, please stop rhyming until this is over," the Raikage said. "As I mentioned earlier, my brother has said that the boy is the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, but even for a Jinchuriki, he seems like an interesting one. According to my spy, the boy defeated an academy instructor who tricked him into stealing the forbidden scroll of seals before he could graduate from the academy, knocked out the Sandaime Hokage, and learned the Kagebunshin no Jutsu in a matter of hours. He was also able to make hundreds of Kagebunshin. The only surviving Yondaime Hokage student, Hitaki Kakashi, put him on a team with Sasuke Uchiha and a girl named Sakura. Just 2 months after graduating from the academy, his team's first C-rank mission turned a rank when they faced Zabuza Momochi, also known as the Demon of the Mist and a former member of the Seven Swordsmen and the Demon Brothers. The boy actually changed into a Demon Windmill Shuriken to save Kakashi's life since Kakashi was hurt and they needed to protect their client. Zabuza fled.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.